gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to Gilchrist Elementary School. It is a little after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It is time for the regularly scheduled City of Tallahassee City Commission meeting. At this time, I would like to call on the Reverend Marcus Payne, who is the pastor of St. Paul AME Church, to provide the invocation. Reverend Payne, if you'll please join us. Everyone please stand.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Most gracious and everlasting God, Lord, we just say thank you, Lord. Lord, we thank you for this great community you allow us to live in. We thank you, Lord, for this great gathering, for the leaders of this community, for the commissioners, for the mayor and all other officials. We thank you for the citizens of this community. Lord, even though we come from all walks of life, I believe we all have one common goal, and that is to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. But Lord, not only love our neighbors, but to love our neighborhoods. So as we vote and discuss various things in this community, remind us to do it in love. I pray for the agenda set before us this day. Please give us guidance, wisdom, and also the assurance of what would please you and what would benefit this community is our prayer. In the name of the Father, amen.
Amen. Amen. Certainly do appreciate that. It is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Brandon Mullane, 5th grader at Gilchrist Elementary School, a rock star student who's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, but you got some backup. Tommy and Henry Daly, you going to go help out a little bit? No, you going to stand there? All right. Brandon, you're on.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent job. Well done. Thank you. Folks, this is an exciting day. This is the first time that I can remember that the City Commission has had a full City Commission meeting outside of the chambers. We are so thankful to Gilchrist Elementary School. And look at this. We've got a packed house. This is absolutely fantastic. I would like... It is my honor and privilege to introduce to you. We have a couple people that are going to provide some quick greetings. First and foremost, the president of the Gilchrist Elementary School Student Government Association, Ella Van Leuven. Ella, thank you for hosting us today.
All right, Ella. Madam President.
Madam President.
I like the sound of that.
My name is Ella Van Leuven, and I would like to invite you to our school. Gilchrist Elementary School has been an important part of our community for over 50 years. My mom was a student here, my grandmother taught here, and now me and my sisters are Grizzlies. As our student council president, I would like to extend to you a great Grizzly welcome.
Thank you.
I got the picture. Ella, thank you so much.
You go, girl.
Ella, I also attended Gilchrist Elementary School. Your grandmother was my teacher here. She will tell you I was wonderful. And I, too, was the president of the Student Government Association here at Gilchrist. So it is an honor and a privilege to have you here with us today. Thank you so much. I do believe Dr. Michelle Gale, the Assistant Superintendent for Leon County Schools,
She's here.
Thank you so much. If you'd like to come and say a few words, thank you so much for being here and allowing us to use your facility.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And welcome to Gilchrist Elementary School and Leon County Schools, where we're neighbors. On behalf of Superintendent Rocky Hanna, I bring you greetings. We're happy to have you here. We look forward to working with you and continuing to collaborate to make our city, our school district, and everything great about Tallahassee, Florida. Again, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you that we are very fortunate to have a wonderful school district that your city partners with quite a bit. On just about any given day during the year, if you walk out to the ball fields in a little bit, you're going to see baseball practice going on. We have flag football. We've got an incredible partnership, and we certainly do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Last but not least, I want to introduce my good friend, the principal of Gilchrist Elementary School, Mr. Scotty Crow.
Well, thank you, Mayor Daley and Commission. Thank you all for being with us. We were delighted to ask to host this meeting to bring the community to Gilchrist, and we feel that the community and the schools is a natural partnership along so many that you're talking about. Whether it's the Parks and Recreation, whether it's the school system, it's a natural fit. It's a natural partnership. We're glad to host this meeting. We're glad to have y'all here today, and welcome to Gilchrist. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Scotty.
Thank you. Dr. Gale, I think Principal Crow needs a big raise for having to deal with daily boys each and every day here in the mean streets of Gilchrist. Scotty, thanks for having us. Certainly do appreciate it. Moving on in the agenda, I'd like to remind everybody from the public that we will have ample opportunity for you to speak both on non-agenda items at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting at the public hearing, but also on each agenda item as we come. Everyone will have plenty of opportunity to speak. First and foremost, do we have any agenda modifications?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Items 1102, 1103, and 1312 have been added to your agenda material. Items 9.09 and items 1302 were updated since the original release of the material.
Excellent. Any questions? Any comments? Moving right along. Do we have any presentations today?
No, sir.
Excellent. Moving on. Do we have any announcements today?
No, sir.
All right. We are on the part of the agenda where we take citizen input on agenda items. What we do is we provide time at the beginning of the meeting just in case you cannot stay for when the agenda item will be coming up. You have the opportunity to speak now. You will also have the opportunity, if you do not speak now, to actually speak on the agenda item as it comes before us. So if you don't think you're going to be here when it comes up, we're giving you the opportunity now. Mr. Clerk, do we have any citizens to speak?
Mayor, we do have a number of speakers at both opportunities. I think they've figured out that they get two chances, so about half of them want to speak now and half at the time of the item.
Okay.
And we do have a couple of people who will speak on unagended items, and I'll remind those folks that that opportunity comes at the very end of our meeting.
Wonderful. I'd like to remind everybody that we're trying to stick to the 3-minute time limit, and I'm going to enforce it. And when you please come, your name and your address for the record, please. Mr. Clerk, our first speaker.
First speaker is Ramona Abernathy Payne.
Ms. Abernathy Payne, it's great to see you again.
She'll be followed by Ernie Payne.
Thank you for giving me a chance to speak to you today. Ramona Abernathy Payne, 2006 East Indian Head Drive, with a tablet that is uncooperative. Flip. Okay.
Take your time.
With all the changes the commission has made, with all the new things this commission is considering, thank you all very much, great job, I suggest investigating expanding free broadband service to all public areas, and begin by making sure that everyone on the commission and everyone in the community understands the issue. Broadband, Wi-Fi, copper, fiber optics, these terms get confused to those of us in the public. We aren't always sure what you're talking about. I don't know what's happened to the digital canopy that was the buzzword a few years back. There are spots of Wi-Fi around Tallahassee, and I suggest investigating the possibility of using these spots as a starting point for combining everything into a single network. Expand out from there. Expand out to city parks, to all public areas, schools, get everybody, the public areas on a single network. Sometime back, Commissioner Matlow and I chatted about municipal broadband, and we agreed that at the time that the wide, easy access to broadband would be a feature that would appeal to younger people, bringing them to Tallahassee as students and keeping them here to live and work. We talked about the money being spent on marketing to this demographic. Seems to me that justification could be made to channel some of that marketing money into exploring broadband. Another source of revenue for the project might come from the CRA. In my opinion, providing broadband to public areas would be a more appropriate use of such funds than adding a floor or two to a private hotel or rebuilding a private business. Sacramento, California has recently installed municipal 5G broadband that does not require laying the same quantity of cable. The technology is moving forward rapidly, and I believe Tallahassee should seriously explore the options before we once again are left behind. Let me end by saying that I fully support exploring the requirements and the possibilities for Tallahassee moving to expand broadband. It may not work as a utility, it may not work at all, but I think it's important for us to explore. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, the next speaker is Ernie Payne, followed by Tammy Jackson. I may not have mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, beginning of our speakers, but if you would give your name and address, we would appreciate it, and you'll have 3 minutes for your remarks.
Mr. Payne, good to see you.
Good to see you again after all this time. I'm Ernie Payne from 2006 East Indian Head Drive, Tallahassee. I last stood before you at your annual retreat to talk about the total lack of any mention of ethics in your statement of organizational values. I called on you to correct that. So I thought it only appropriate for me to come before you today as I see the initial output from your Strategic Initiative Committee that lists ethical values at the very top of the list of organizational values. I applaud that. I hope that you'll move to implement that as soon as possible. Since I last spoke to you, you named me as the City Commission's appointee to the Ethics Board, the Independent Ethics Board. I'm grateful to you for that still. But as you know, in the next few weeks, we'll be moving to recommend to you a series of ordinances that will give the force of law behind this statement of values. I can't say anything more to you at this time other than to say, stay tuned. Those of us who have been in Tallahassee for several years recognize the periodic call by some legislator or other to move the seat of government downstate. Mayor Daley, you gave a nice response to that in your opinion piece of the Democrat last week. One other way that we can counter these calls is to show the legislature that we're worthy. If you establish a strong code of ethics that goes above and beyond Chapter 112, the state code, you can demonstrate that Tallahassee can be an example to the rest of the state as to what good ethical government looks like. This new statement of organizational values is a good step in the right direction. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Tammy Jackson, followed by Deidre Powell, each of them speaking on item 1303, which is the naming of gymnasiums.
Welcome.
Welcome. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Everyone. I'm here in support of Greg Grady, and I think legends like Greg Grady, it would be an honor to have something with his name on it, because what he's done, I've been around Greg Grady ever since I was 16. So he's been a father figure, he's been all those good things to everyone in the community, and out of all the 3 recreation centers, he came to them and helped improve it. So I think today, I hope today you all exhaust the knowledge that he will get his name on Dave Street Gym. And that's pretty much all I have to say. I was at the first meeting, the initial meeting, but that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Tammy.
Deidre Powell, followed by Sammy Dixon.
Ms. Powell, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming out.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Deidre Powell, 602 Campbell Street, and I'm sincerely hoping that you will allow me the opportunity to use the Baptist version of 3 minutes to speak to you today.
Ms. Powell, work with us now. Work with us.
With this being said, I stand before you as chairperson of a 15-member committee formed 2 years ago in an effort to decide just what could we do that would be very special in honoring Mr. Gregory Gray Grady and showing him our love, appreciation, gratitude for what he has done for the communities of Jagaitha, Bond, Frenchtown, and Griffin Heights, where he served his 33-year City of Tallahassee career as supervisor of the recreation centers. First, through letters, donation, contacts, we raised over $1,800, and with it, we gave Greg a very wonderful retirement celebration at Lawrence Grady Dave Street Recreation Center on Saturday, February the 18th, 2017. The program consisted of youth performances of poems, songs, dance presentations, and humorous imitations of Greg, both personally and professionally. Second, the committee made efforts to have the Lawrence Grady Dave Street Recreation Center's gym named in his honor. In doing so, we felt it would give Greg a chance to see and smell his roses while he's alive. With much planning and hard work, we collected 18 letters of recommendation on his behalf, as well as 1,723 petition signatures from 42 African-American churches in Tallahassee. And just what makes Greg so very special in the eyes of the Tallahassee community, after setting foot on Tallahassee soil as a 19-year-old athlete from Brooklyn, New York, for the purpose of fulfilling his lifetime dream of playing college basketball, which he did at Florida State from 72 to 76, eventually graduating with a degree in speech and mass communication, and then playing professional basketball in France for 5 years. Greg thus began his 33-year career with the City of Tallahassee Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Center. At the centers, Greg has planned talent shows, gospel concerts, teen dances, youth intervention programs, volleyball and basketball tournaments, Halloween, Christmas programs acknowledging and paying tributes to the lost sons of grieving mothers. They may be here today, some of the mothers that have lost sons in our neighborhood. He has been a tremendous role model for our African-American male youth. He has been a good listener, confident advisor for those needing help and comfort. In essence, he has been both a father and a mother figure for many single parents needing help with their children. He has also allowed his strong and steady shoulders to be used to cry on for mothers who have sadly lost sons in the black community. He has made many sacrifices to the city. In 1990, he was recognized by the Tallahassee Police Department for his assistance with a dangerous situation at Lawrence Grady Recreation Center, with the center's youth and a police officer's life in danger by suspects' use of the police officer's gun. Greg jumped into action and subdued the suspect until the officer regained his composure and back up a ride. For his heroism in saving a family in a house fire, Greg was also presented the Citizen of the Year Award by the Omega Psi Phi fraternity and by John Marks, mayor at the time. He is a loving and devoted husband of Annie, 3 adult children and 1 grandson. Among his many honors, only additional one I will mention at this time will be he was inducted into FSU's Hall of Fame Basketball 2017 on January the 8th. The Tallahassee Parks and Recreation Advisory Board voted unanimously to name the gymnasium in his honor. The committee is asking this evening for the City Commissioner's favorable vote in the naming of the gym. And at this time, I would like to thank you for giving me my 3 minutes Baptist version of speaking.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Deidre for the initiative that she took and her committee to make this happen. I would like to think that it would have happened anyway, but if it hadn't, I certainly want to personally thank, and on behalf of the commission, thank Deidre and her committee for the work that they did, because I don't know how many hundreds of signatures they got signed on a petition to help move this along, but for that effort, it may not have happened, and we couldn't be honoring 2 more deserving young men here this afternoon through what I'm sure will be approved by this commission later in the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Sammy Dixon. He'll be followed by Blake Dowling, each speaking on item 1102, your fiber optic network topic.
Mr. Dixon, welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
Sammy Dixon, 1897 Capitol Circle Northeast. Mr. Mayor, fellow commissioners, it's an honor to be here in front of you today. I had the opportunity of starting a company in this community 11 years ago, Prime Meridian Bank. It's now about a $420 million financial institution. We've brought $50 million of hard equity capital to this community. We employ in Tallahassee over 84 people. I would encourage you today to truly reconsider getting into the private enterprise business of providing broadband, or even looking at the feasibility study of doing that. It makes no sense. We have 16 current providers that you could work with to help provide additional services. So, Mr. Mayor, commissioners, thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you.
I believe that was a Presbyterian 3 minutes, Mr. Mayor.
That was. That was a Presbyterian 3 minutes. That's how we roll. First couple of pews are empty, too.
Well, I'm Blake Dowling, and I'm an Episcopalian. So, first off, 1222 Devil's Dip is my address, and again, my name is Blake Dowling. Thank you for your service. We appreciate you all very much. I am the CEO of a technology company here in Tallahassee called Aegis Business Technologies. We employ 15 full-time folks, and while we are not in the business of providing internet, we work with, I think it's 19 organizations actually, Sammy, that provide internet in the region. I work with 5 of those on a weekly basis. Those are Electronet, those are Velocity, Unity, CenturyLink, Comcast, and they're all very responsible to us. I can call Electronet on a weekend and say, I need internet service stat. I would, as Sammy said, implore you to trust the private sector with internet. It's something that's not easy. Technology is a moving beast every day of the year, and those are my 2 cents. I come to these meetings about every 6 years or so, but I thought today was an appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Dowling. Appreciate it.
We hope to see you before 6 years.
Next speaker is Stephen Martin. He's speaking on items 905 and 907 on your consent agenda, the Canopy Roads Management Plan and the approval of subdivision plat Canopy. Then he'll be followed by Peyton Woodruff.
Mr. Martin, it's good to see you.
Yeah. Stephen Martin, 2625 Stonegate Drive. I've already had a few people come up and say you're going to be talking about Wilani. Sure. I was going to talk about Canopy Roads because I was under the impression that the Canopy Roads Association was satisfied with their mitigation agreement that had been reached with the developer of Canopy as a result of him being cited October before last for excessive removal of canopy from the Canopy Protection Zone. And I had thought that they had pretty much lived up to what was expected of them, and I was going to go and make a comment about the Canopy Road Association that I thought was not responding as the neighborhood out there as we thought would be, because we are not satisfied with this. I found out from Ms. Moorman that they have not lived up to what they agreed to, that the developer reached an agreement with the Canopy Road Association, and as she said, they have yet to do anything about that. So they are a far cry from living up to what they gave their word they would do. Now, the item I'm talking about now is on consent. There's another one of theirs coming up later that I'll talk about individually. Well, that means it's probably been more or less rubber stamped through. But there has been quite a bit of problems out there. Headlines since last August: residents cry foul as Canopy Pond floods road. State agency calls for halt of canopy development. DEP sues Canopy, seeks fines up to $10,000 a day. Lawsuit pressures Canopy into permit compliance. Canopy developers ordered to pay penalty. Their fine was the largest in the history of the water management district. Last week in the paper, a commentary, not about canopy development per se, just about across Tallahassee. We can see poorly thought out development popping up all over the city, and these aren't my words. If the commissioners want to have a serious look at what makes our city work for the long term, then we have to look at how debacles like the Tallahassee Mall and the canopy development came to be. Yeah, I think this is pretty much considered to be a failure at this point. And they have messed things up out there, and they haven't cleaned up what they've messed up. So before you give them a permit to go mess up anything else out there, I would ask that they clean up what they've already messed up and keep their word on this. And
Thank
as
you,
I
Mr.
said
Martin.
in November at the meeting, the last one, the 3 of the commissioners who approved of this development that I vehemently opposed back in 2010 and 2011, I told you so. I told you so.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Next speaker is Paige Woodruff, speaking on item 1102, which is your fiber optic network item. And the next speaker will then be Bossman Jackson. And those are the only 2 remaining speakers at this portion of our meeting, unless
Woodruff,
someone directs me
Good to
otherwise.
see you. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Peyton Woodruff. My address is 322 Anderson Street. Thanks for moving these meetings around, by the way. I feel like this has greatly increased accessibility, and I feel like there's been a lot more community outreach recently to engage with the community through social media and topics that are on the agenda, and I appreciate it. I'm here to support the fiber feasibility study. I'm not a lobbyist. I'm a small business owner. I live and work in Midtown. I think that at least looking at this issue, and maybe there are public-private partnership availabilities that could be done to make something work to increase the accessibility of fiber optic networks in Tallahassee, to decrease the cost of achieving fiber optic connections in Tallahassee. Today, I took some time out to call Comcast to find out how much it would cost to add a fiber optic line to where I work. I was told that the most I could get from my connection would be a 35 megabit upload speed. I regularly have to upload large files. I work remotely with clients across the country and spend hours and hours sitting and making sure that there's no interruption to my file transfers, to make sure that the files get there when they need to get there. So the most I could get at my connection at $100 a month, $115 a month, was a 35 megabit upload speed. To get a fiber optic speed at my location, I would be paying a $1,000 installation and $300 a month. That seems excessive. So again, I'm a longtime resident. I don't have a dog in this fight. I would like affordable internet that goes quickly, as if I lived in a first world country. I want to be able to upload files quickly and communicate with people quickly. So thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bossman Jackson, speaking on item 1303, naming of gymnasium.
Mr. Jackson, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I was sitting back there listening at all the nice things they were saying about Joe and Ray, and I agree with everybody that came up here to speak on in their behalf. But I disagree in naming a gymnasium for them. I think we can do much better than that. See, if we're going to play a basketball game tonight and it's going to be over at Richardson, we're going to say the game is at Richardson, not the Eli Bryant Gymnasium. See, I think the next recreation center built in the city of Tallahassee should be named for those 3. Let it be the Greg Grady, Joe Thomas, and Phyllis Bush Recreation Center. Then you got some identity. But to walk into a gymnasium over at Walker Forward, everybody gonna say the game is played at Walker Forward. Who know what the gym or who the gym is supposed to be honored into? So we can do better than that. And while I'm up here, I hadn't used my 3 minutes. We have some property. We've been trying to get some property, and we, the city, own some property. The school board and the city been haggling over this property. For you new members, you might not know anything about it, but it's the Lincoln property. Over 2 years, we need to get that property from the school board. The school board want the property in front of Leon High School. Whatever it takes, it's all taxpayers' money. Let's get rid of that big old stigma where the school board is threatening to sell the Lincoln property, the baseball field up there at the corner of 4th and Macomb. Now, we have been going round and round with this, and it comes to a standstill. 30 years from now, you won't have 10 people on this earth that attended Lincoln High School, because everyone that attended Lincoln High School is a minimum of 30 years of age or older. I did graduate from Lincoln, and I'm older than 70. So we need to clear that off the books for you new city commissioners. And I got 3 of y'all sitting together. We need to get that cleared up. The school board threatened to sell that property every so often. And I met with the city manager over a year ago on this. So let's get this cleared up, okay? And let's do better than that by Greg, Joe, and Phyllis. Okay? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ms. Jackson. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question of how you doing, boss man?
I'm surviving this mess.
All right. Just to be clear, the name of that park is Lee Park, correct?
The name of the park is Lee Park, but it's owned by the Leon County School Board. See, and you are just doing the kids a disadvantage there. You're discriminating against kids because there's no restrooms up there. There's no lights there. And the school board is in their rights. I wouldn't do anything to improve the property because you don't own it. I mean, the school board owns it, but they don't need that property. Okay. See, and what the school board owned, well, give you a little quick history if you don't know it.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I was just asking a question.
Let's get this right. When Lincoln High School was closed and they divided the property, it was 6 acres of land. The school board took the old band room and athletics and the fields. The city took the school and made a community center out of it. Since that time, the school board had the old sales school there. That building is 100% condemned. If you come by there, you'll see metal poles holding the walls up. That property is condemned. The school board wants the city. Well, first of all, the city of Tallahassee owned the property in front of Leon High School. Very few people know that. That's the city of Tallahassee's property. The city of Tallahassee owns Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. It's a foundation. Yeah, I know y'all didn't know that. But the school board want to swap the properties off. But each want the other to improve the property. The city want the school board to take down the old band room and the recreation building. The city, that's what the city wants the school board to do. The school board, in turn, want the city of Tallahassee to improve the property in front of Leon High School, the drainage. You can talk to our manager, he'll tell you about it. And neither of them can come to an agreement on what's going to happen. So the school board, every so often, will put the property up for sale.
Mr. Jackson,
if they sell it.
I'll tell you what, we will definitely look into it. And
No, we need to do something about it, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, and the next time that I have the opportunity, we will have a scheduled meeting with the superintendent, with the chairwoman of the school board, and I look forward to talking to him.
Yeah, let's get this property settled down. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Mr. Cook.
Our remaining speakers, Mayor, have asked to speak at the time the item comes forward, and therefore there are no more speakers at this time.
Wonderful. Is there anyone that has not had an opportunity to fill out a speaker card that would like to speak now? All right, let's move right along. We're on agenda item number 8. Do we have any appearances by appointed boards or committees?
No, Mr. Mayor.
We're on the consent agenda item.
Move consent, Mr. Mayor.
Have any of the agenda items been pulled?
No, sir.
Great. Got a motion for the consent agenda item by the Mayor Pro-Tem. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly seconded by Dr. Bryant. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously. We're on item number 11.01.
Mayor and Commissioners, there are 4 open City Commission appointed spots on the joint City-County Bicycle Working Group. The working group is made up of both City Commission and County Commission appointees and provides recommendations through our planning staff regarding cycling projects, events, and improvements. This agenda item recommends the reappointment of 2 current members and the appointment of 2 new members. The appointments are actually the recommended appointments are Ashley Hopkins, Michael Gladwin, Erica Puckett, and Hans Von Toll.
Do we have any public speakers on this item?
Mayor, we do not have any speakers on this one.
Excellent.
Move staff recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
It's been properly moved by the Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Commissioner Williams-Cox. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously. Number 11.02, please.
Mr. Mayor, this item was added to the agenda at the request of Commissioner Bryant for the reconsideration of the vote on the RFP for feasibility study on the fiber optic network program.
Okay, folks, this is how we're going to do this. First and foremost, to put us in the proper position, I'm going to entertain a motion for reconsideration. It needs to be properly seconded and passed by a simple majority. If that motion passes, then we will entertain public comment, and then we will enter into commission discussion. Any questions on the process? Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Mayor, I do have a question on the process. I want to make sure the public is clear on how we're going to do this, and I've spoken with our city attorney. If you will just allow her to explain to the public what we're doing.
Sure, Madam Attorney.
Absolutely. So a motion for reconsideration asks consent of the body to reconsider a vote that was previously taken by this body. It is made by a member of the prevailing side. It can be approved by a majority of the quorum present and can be seconded by any member of the commission. It cannot be amended, and if approved, it essentially puts the agenda item back for consideration.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Dr. Bryant, I'm assuming that you are making a motion for reconsideration since you brought this item back to the board.
Yes, sir, Mr.
Has
Mayor.
it been properly seconded?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Matlow and the Vice Mayor. Any further discussion? All those in favor of reconsideration signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, it passes unanimously. Okay, so 11.02 will now be properly discussed. Let's move into public comment. Mr. Cook.
Mayor, we have a number of speakers. The first is Michael Herron. He'll be followed by Sue Dick.
Mr. Herron, how are you, sir? Great. Good. 3 minutes, please, and your name and address for the record.
My name is Michael Herron. From 1607 Pepper Drive. I've never been to one of these before. This is very exciting.
Welcome.
I'm relatively new to local politics, I guess specifically, but I'm a web developer for the College of Social Sciences at Florida State. And I'm a computer science major from Florida State. I'm born and raised in Tallahassee. I grew up east near Miccosukee. So it just seems crazy to me that we wouldn't do a feasibility study. I know that as a constituent and just a citizen that my interests are not aligned with that of giant telecom companies or even small telecom companies. I want accessibility of internet for low-income communities, for businesses large and small, and I know from my job that the web is not going away. And at the risk of sounding dramatic, web development is, and computation in general, is liberation from all these kinds of social problems. So that the idea that we wouldn't be looking into taking more control of the pipeline by which we could, help people is crazy to me. I think that we owe it to the city and the people who are going to be served to look into this. The web's only getting bigger, and data caps and large telecom companies controlling these things makes me really nervous. And the idea that we wouldn't even necessarily be able to go to the bargaining table with these large companies that might want to come to Tallahassee, or for small companies that just want to stay, because all of that stuff's controlled by big, like a telecom company. Again, it just seems crazy to me. I recognize that legislation and budgets and things aren't necessarily my field of expertise, so obviously I'm deferring to you all. if a feasibility study says that it's expensive and impractical and silly and we should keep the current system, obviously we should do that. But the idea that we're not going to look into it, and I'm going to say it one more time, is just crazy to me. But I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for what you guys do, and thank everybody else for coming here. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Love it.
Sue Dick is next, then followed by Darwin Gamble.
Ms. Dick, good to see you. Your name and address for the record in 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, sir. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Sue Dick, President, Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce, 412 Plantation Road. A couple things. First, I think these community meetings are an excellent idea. I've seen many business people that are here, friends, and individuals have been in the community a long time that have said they've never been to a commission meeting. So congratulations. I think success in what you attempted to do, and look forward to attending more in the future. We have several members of our board of directors that are here from the Chamber of Commerce, as well as industry providers. I know you've heard from a couple individuals already. Hopefully all of you have had a chance in your busy day to read a letter from our chairman, Marco Bryant, of the board of directors. It should be in your inbox. It came today as a result of a board meeting yesterday. I'll just hit some highlights to it. I know we did get the receipt from some office that you did receive it, and thank you to your staff for pulling that so quickly. In essence, what the letter indicates is that we would hope that the city would not proceed with an RFP to do a feasibility study. We have many providers, you've already heard, already in the marketplace. Many providers that are here that currently offer this service and have suggested that their companies are obviously committed to this community. And as outlined by your good hard work to date, there are several priorities in front of our community to be faced. And local government should not be in the business of competing with private industry and private sector. One suggestion, and I know in talking to these industry providers that are partners in our community on many fronts, is to, if it assists and it's something to move forward, a potential solution moving forward without doing a feasibility study and getting in competition or really moving into that space as government, is to maybe convene the current providers, and we would be happy to organize that or facilitate that, and to really bring forward some of the issues and concerns. I know that they would be willing to have those meetings and bring their resources to the table as a means of a potential solution to really talk about this a little bit further and really understand what we're trying to accomplish. But the request from the board of directors is to state not to move forward with the feasibility study, to allow the private sector to bring forward the services, the many opportunities that are here with the providers, and that if we can assist in any way to continue this discussion with a different proposed outcome, we'd be happy to do that. But thank you for your time, and thank you for your leadership.
Great, thank you.
Next is Darwin Gamble, and then Debbie Lightsey.
Mr. Gamble, it's great to see you.
Good afternoon. Great to be here. For the record, Darwin Gamble, 1248 Halifax Court. I would like to address the reconsideration itself, because that's how this item wound up on the agenda in the first place. And here's what bothers me about it. Statements I read in the media are inconsistent with what actually happened during the March 6th workshop. I went back and looked at the videotape and listened very carefully. The discussion to me was clear. The motion on the table was clear. The motion was not for a staff study or a white paper or a blue ribbon or anything like that. The motion was clearly for a request for proposal, an RFP. And I think everybody I'm looking at right now knows what an RFP is. So that's what happened during the workshop. Now, we don't really know what happened between March 6th and March 22nd that got us to this point. But I do know this. I think the citizens of Tallahassee deserve better representation than this. And I think the many thousands of Tallahassee residents who voted in last year's election deserve more respect than this. And I think the reconsideration itself has no merit. Okay, it's already passed, but I think it has no merit. You should have let the process go through, let the feasibility proposal study come back, and then let people vote for or against it on its own merits. And that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Debbie Lightsey, and then Barry Monroe.
Former Commissioner Lightsey, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Debbie Lightsey, 2340 Cypress Cove Drive, Tallahassee. Good to see all of you. G parking was hard up here, but I'm glad you're moving these around in the community. I have been happy to watch this new commission and very pleased with the results that we have seen. And to hear you repeatedly say that you want to make fact-based decisions, that you want to be deliberate and make every decision in the best long-term interests of the whole community. And I have seen you take several hard votes in support of that commitment. And I'm here today to encourage you to move forward with this RFP. It is simply fact gathering so that you can make fact-based decisions in the future. It does not commit you to anything. It does not commit you to put the city into the broadband business. High-quality, affordable broadband services are essential today and become more so as we move into the next level of technology. Yet we don't know exactly today what broadband infrastructure we have or what its capacity to grow to handle the new next generation of technology is. We do know that we have a patchwork of part fiber, part coaxial cable, and part copper wire, basic phone lines. We have no uniform service level in the city or the county, and what we have is likely maxed out as to its capacity. But we just don't know the answers to any of those questions. And what will we need to be economically competitive over the next 20 years, and who will provide it? We have no idea. I would think you, the chamber, and the business community particularly, but also want this essential information and would be in support of moving forward with the RFP. With Blueprint raising $90 million over the next 15 years to do effective new job creation, focusing on high-tech, high-wage jobs. High-tech. We have to have state-of-the-art, affordable broadband infrastructure and some consistency here to be able to do that. That's just simply a fact. I don't understand the reluctance to move forward to gather information to ensure that we are prepared for a successful future, to know what infrastructure we need, what will it cost, who will provide it, and when, so that we're not left behind. And finally, is there a role for the city government to play in providing what is necessary? These are the questions. And we need professional, objective feasibility study and data to be prepared to make these decisions and answer these questions. I realize the incumbent service providers feel threatened by these questions being asked, but we must address the future needs of the community as a whole and not allow ourselves to be hamstrung now by the fears of the legacy companies. They may be the future providers. Nothing about this feasibility study would preclude them from being that. But we all need knowledge to guide us and them into the future, and some standards which we hope to meet. But please move forward with the RFP. If you want to redefine it so that you are more comfortable with what's going to be covered or the language in the RFP, then please do that and redefine the RFP if that makes you more comfortable. But we need this information. We need it as a community. We need it to be successful. And I ask you to please move forward. This is just fact gathering. This should not be a threat to anyone. It's essential for us to have this information. You can rewrite what you want it to say, but we need the information. All of us do, including the providers that are here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Barry Monroe, and then Jack Porter.
Mr. Monroe, good to see you.
My name is Barry Monroe. I am at 1248 Halifax Court. I won't belittle the matter. I was really shocked, when I heard about this motion for reconsideration, because I think that knowledge is power. Knowledge is a tremendous power. I've been able to talk to a lot of people because they probably know me as the petition man. He's out there gathering petitions from one person to the other person. And I think there's something special about Tallahassee that makes people want to find out what's going on, that makes people want to hunger for knowledge. Now, one of the things I think that is really egregious in this situation is that if it's not just this RFP, maybe a white paper or some other peer-reviewed studies that would show that Tallahassee either benefits from this or doesn't. But right now, we're all in the blind. I don't understand why this should be focused so much on the industry itself rather than a need that people have. We talk about the tale of two cities. You know, we have the South Side and we have where we are here now. I know that when I was growing up as a kid, my Encyclopedia Britannica was my fiber optic network system.
Mine too.
So what I'm asking you simply is to just let the knowledge flow, and I beg of you to reconsider your positions and do the right thing.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Jack Porter and then Kathy McGuire.
Ms. Porter, it's good to see you.
We have about 4 speakers remaining on this item, Mayor and
Name and
Commissioners.
address for the record.
Hi, my name is
please.
Jacqueline Porter. My address is 115 North Franklin Boulevard. First, I'd like to show support for item 11.03, the gender-neutral ordinance. So thank you for considering that. But I am speaking today on behalf of the Tallahassee-Leon County Commission on the Status of Women and Girls as the chair of the Committee on Economic Security and Education. In this capacity, I urge the city to move forward with a feasibility study on municipal broadband. The CSWG supports this because of the implications we believe it could have for the economic well-being and education and employment opportunities for working women and girls in our community, and especially working women and girls of color. According to the Pew Research Center, low-income homes with children are 4 times more likely to be without broadband than their middle or upper-income counterparts. Blacks and Hispanics are also more likely to be smartphone-only internet users, and even then, they are about twice as likely as whites to cancel their service because of the cost. We already know that poverty is a serious problem facing this community, and that access to the internet is all but required for participation in civic life, schooling, socializing, personal health, and professional development, among other things. For this reason, this is a topic worthy of further study. We cannot afford to let the most vulnerable of us fall behind. Whereas incumbent internet service providers or any other further ones that come to town can choose to invest in only the most profitable areas, leaving poor neighborhoods that need access most behind, with community fiber or working together with private providers, we can strategically and democratically direct resources in a way that works for everyone and that uplifts our community. High-speed, reliable, and affordable internet is pivotal for working women and girls and bridging the global digital gender divide by giving them access to opportunities to earn additional income, expand their employment options, and pursue online education, especially in STEM fields. As chair of the Economic Security and Education Committee of the Leon County Tallahassee Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, I fully support taking this common sense step forward for the benefit of all Tallahassee residents. I hope we can count on you to look into broadband improvements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy McGuire and then Cosby Hayes.
Ms. McGuire, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Kathy McGuire. I live at 1101 Pine Street. I think that this RFP is a rich opportunity for Tallahassee. Right now, as far as the residential market goes, I feel like the status quo benefits a few companies, but not really the citizens of Tallahassee. And as for the businesses, I think we should look at the viability and options through a feasibility study, because I think that it's possible to improve the business environment for everyone and not just the current providers. I also think it would allow you as a commission to have a more fruitful discussion with the providers, as they've indicated today that they're interested in. I think that's a good show of interest, and that by learning a little bit more and having more information, it will help you best communicate with them and come up with what's good for all of us. I think that there's no better way to distinguish ourselves in Tallahassee and draw more technology businesses into town than to show that we're willing to invest in the future of our businesses, our schools, and our citizens, and that we have our eye on the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, the next speaker is Cosby Hayes and then Michael Gagliardi, and those are the last two speakers on the item.
Mr. Hayes, good to see you, sir.
Good afternoon. For the record, Cosby Hayes, 5430 Lawton Court. Since the beginning of this year, the Commission has gained a new reputation for itself. People have been hearing a lot of good things about the city, and that's for the first time in a long time. Please don't let the City Commission go back to its old ways that got it into trouble in the first place. Keeping everything in-house and refusing to advance a bold vision in favor of sticking with business as usual will be doing just that. People of my generation are watching and looking for bold leadership. If you decide to reverse course and not go forward in pursuit of information and explore public internet options for the future, I fear this City Commission will be back to its old ways and disconnected from the future. The same old city government, just with new commissioners in the seats. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Gagliardi will be the last speaker on item 1102.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Michael Gagliardi, 3924 Paces Place. Fundamentally, the idea that we're reconsidering going back on an issue where Tallahassee has the unique opportunity in the South to seize a means of commerce for itself, it's just baffling to me that you wouldn't seize this opportunity. The CEO of Comcast has a net worth of $1.8 billion. He has multiple $15 million homes and a sizable amount of Congress on his payroll. Where did he get that money? He got that money by overworking and underpaying his workers and sapping wealth from communities who have no choice other than to use his services. When I moved to Tallahassee, my choices for high-speed internet were Comcast. That's it. I have literally no other option. I don't know if you know this, but Comcast is not the most popular guy in the room. You can ask anyone in here. It polls about as well as leprosy. And if you're telling me, and so one thing that's been great ever since I moved to Tallahassee is my utilities. And you know why that is? Because city workers, members of this community who draw a good wage and get good benefits and are happy with their lives, provide better service than underpaid people slaving away so that the CEO of Comcast can have yet another ivory back scratcher. Like this, we have a chance to take back the wealth that's been stolen from us and reinvest it into something that everyone in Tallahassee would be proud of. So, excuse me, I'm sorry, the Chamber of Commerce woman who comes up here and tells you, well, the city of Tallahassee shouldn't be competing. That's because they're scared because it won't be a competition. It would be a blowout. The city of Tallahassee Utilities consistently performs better than anything the private sector has to offer. Oh, the government shouldn't be competing. Okay, let's privatize the police. Should they only investigate when I can afford to pay their salaries? Should the rich be privileged to have access to the fire department first? It's ridiculous. It boils down to the fact that the internet is a human right at this point. If you do not have the internet in your house, you're behind the 8 ball from the get-go. Applying for jobs online, looking up things, doing school research projects, applying to colleges and universities, managing your bills online, everything. Without the internet, you are so far behind, you're never going to claw your way out. And then suddenly we have an opportunity to provide for our citizens, and we can't even take the moment to study it. Thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, thank you for your kind comments about City of Tallahassee Utilities. We do have some great men and women that work there. We do appreciate that. Mr. Clerk.
No further speakers on this item.
Is there anyone else here that hasn't had a chance to fill out a speaker card that'd like to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll move into commission discussion. Commissioner Bryant, I'll recognize you first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I'd first like to do is to reflect upon my comments that are a part of the minutes and the record. At the last commission meeting, I think I stated fairly emphatically that I do support broadband, that I support moving with a forward-thinking view of things that we do for the citizenry of this city. I don't change that today. I've heard your comments. I do, however, and this probably will sound pretty familiar to many of you, believe that as we move forward, we should do it strategically. We talked about doing an RFP, which obviously costs funds, and we have yet to even make broadband a strategic initiative through the strategic planning process for our city. Should it be? In my mind, absolutely. It should be something that we study. We should get information. I think someone mentioned about doing a white paper. I believe we should do some kind of paper that will actually lay out for us in an education format what's available, not only with broadband, but what else is available, what other technologies are available that we should be considering. Now, should the city actually delve into this process and be the owner, I would suggest to you today, absolutely not. I think it, number one, has to be studied. Number two, I believe that data should be collected. Number three, I think it should be a part of a plan. And number four, and probably most importantly, it should be budgeted. I don't think we move forward by actually just doing things because it sounds like a good idea today. I think the private sector in our city is growing, that businesses, we're growing business in our community. And right now, businesses in our community are offering options and choices. Can they be improved? Absolutely. The more knowledge we have, the better positioned we are to ask questions that will bring businesses together. I think someone even mentioned that, such that we can challenge them to provide exactly what we need as a community. So yes, I am pro-business, and yes, I do support businesses for our city. I do think we should bring jobs to our city. I do think that whomever comes, we should challenge them to ensure, especially in this arena, that they look at the digital divide in our community. I think all these things are extremely important, but I think it has to be done in a very strategic manner. So yes, I did ask that this be brought back before the commission tonight, not because I oppose broadband. And I've been asked several times now, Elaine, why did you change your mind? Well, I have not changed my mind. And if you look closely in the minutes, you'll see that I made these same statements at the last meeting. That I support it, I'm forward-thinking and forward-moving. But I do believe that we have to do things that will cover two waterfronts. We must support business for our community, and we also must support doing things in a strategic and logical manner. So, Mr. Mayor, that I'll answer any questions from my fellow commissioners if they have any regarding the motion that I'm bringing back.
Do you have a motion on the table, Commissioner Bryant?
I will place a motion on the, if you'd like.
Now's the appropriate time.
I would move that the city manager collaborate with and engage discussion with the university community, our colleges of science and technology, and other experts and the business community to prepare a white paper, research paper that examines the current state of broadband internet technology and other emerging technologies that provide comparative internet offerings to our citizens in our community, with a special emphasis on ensuring that the digital divide is considered.
Second.
Did you get that? Are you clear?
Mr. Mayor, I was trying to channel Carl over there and write all of that down. We're clear. I appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let me be clear. You did not state it in the motion as the motion not to move forward with the RFP.
I thought we've already done that.
Just being
and
clear.
passed that. Yes, sir.
Okay. There's a motion on the table, and it's been probably moved by the Mayor Pro-Tem. Any other comment? Okay, I'll tell you what. Commissioner Matlow, and then we'll go Commissioner Williams-Cox, and then the Vice Mayor.
Sure. First of all, I just want to thank everybody coming out to Gilchrist Elementary School to celebrate with us here. It's been a long time since I've been in a cafeteria in rectangle slices of pizza, so it brings back memories for me too, even though
it smells the exact same as it did 30 years ago.
And I also want to thank you guys, for indulging us newcomers to kind of push this more out into the public. we appreciate. I'm glad people showed up, so we weren't too embarrassed of the idea when we put it forward. So, but I also thank you for your explanation, Commissioner Bryant. Honestly, I don't think many of us are that far apart. I don't think even the different sides of the coin that have spoke tonight are that far apart, but we need to make sure we're speaking about things in the right language. And right before the meeting, Ms. Abernathy-Payne asked me, and she didn't really understand what exactly we were talking about. So I think there's been a lot of confusion there. And, you know, I want to just apologize personally, because I think we laid this out in a way that people might not have realized what we were talking. I wanted to cast a wide enough net so that people who want us to go full out and compete head to head could come to the table and express that opinion, as well as people who don't think we should have fiber optics at all should be able to. But I think what's happened here, and I think what's very clear, is that nobody on the board wants to get into a $300 million project where we're selling retail service directly to customers. So I would say, I think we can already, let's just take that off of the table from the very beginning and move forward about what we're actually talking about, or what we can be talking about, and where we can find maybe some consensus. So first I want to just talk a little bit about broadband internet and fiber optic and what the difference may be, you know, because my family's needs are met. You know, my son has figured out how to use my smart TV. He's figured out how to get onto YouTube. I don't need a whole lot of speed for him to do that. It's just a lot harder getting him to stop doing that without watching over his shoulder every day. But what we're really talking about is the future and the infrastructure we have in place to meet the future demand. So right now, I think we saw 99% of our city was covered with copper wire that can serve the basic needs of people. But when we really start talking about fiber optic and what's the difference, only 9% of our city has access to fiber optic networks, and we don't know where that is. We don't really have enough information at all, and I think that's the type of information I'm trying to get at too. And I think however we move forward, it doesn't really matter as long as we're getting the facts and we're letting the people engage with the facts. So just to make a comparison, if you think about the current internet as a road system, right? We started out with a cobblestone road where horses can go through, and then the interstate came along and it served a completely different purpose, and people could travel much faster. And that's the same thing that's happening digitally. There's a need for much more speed that we couldn't provide on the first infrastructure. So I don't think, it's not about competing head to head. It's not, you're already doing it and we want to do it too. That's not the intent of any of this. So I took a personal hit today saying that economic segregation is a more important issue than this, but I mean, I just want to make sure we're clear. Economic segregation didn't happen overnight. It was a series of systems and a series of decisions that let infrastructure be invested in unequally. And as we talk about broadband and fiber optic, we at least need to know the knowledge of where we're going. I'd hate to see 20 years from now, half of the city have access to fiber optics, and then small businesses in other sides of the city not be able to compete at all. So we just need to be conscious of this as an infrastructure and what we're talking about. So why do you need those faster services? We're already seeing our lives come together. I have a smart watch that controls my AC at my house, that controls my security system. Everybody's lives are coming together with technology. The geeks amongst us like to call it the Internet of Things, like how we're all gonna, everything's gonna make our lives easier. It's all gonna connect, your car, your home, your work. And the city government has the same needs. We're saying, we need more data. We have sensors that can show optimal parking spots and traffic flows, sensors that can manage rainwater runoff, sensors that can detect water contamination. So where the world is going is data, lots and lots of data, so we can do things better, more efficiently, and cheaper. And we need to be conscious of that, because other cities, I feel, are going to get there first unless we have this as the forefront of our conversation. So I think we've all agreed that we don't want to go head-to-head with the private sector. We don't want to go to door-to-door saying, hey, for $69.99, we'll bring you a television, and, John Daly will juggle for you, and we'll start our own network. I don't want to do any of that. But I do want to make sure we're talking about what the other options were, and I think they kind of got glossed over, and that's we already have a significant amount of dark fiber. And that's fiber optic cables we've already laid. It's already in the ground. It's just not being used. So can we access that, and can we make that dark fiber available to the private sector, a private company that wants to sell it and deliver faster services? And then the other part of that is And I completely agree with the Chamber of Commerce. We need everybody in the industry to come to the table. Whether you call it a feasibility study or a white paper, we need you to we need to know what you're doing. We need to know where you want to go so we can together collaboratively work for what's best for our city. And that's what I think gets left behind. So there's 750 cities across the country who have done this. They all have, Palo Alto, Silicon Valley, they have 19 suppliers, but they're doing it because they realize how the efficiency of their city and how it can help them. So there's so many different options where we could just build the infrastructure, lease it to private companies, or sell it outright. So since we've started this conversation, a company actually contacted me who's worked with other municipalities, and they said, man, if you guys wanted to do something like that, we would want to come and talk to you about it. We would be, so it's not just what companies are here. So I would engage every company we have, say, yes, we want to talk about this together. But I do think what we do need is a study. And when I looked at the RFP language the city manager provided, I didn't really see much about business plans or how we're in that space, but it talked about a needs assessment. It talked about the infrastructure we already have in place, what our needs are, and what the market is, what the competition is. So I don't think that steps on any toes. I think it's just information. But I think largely we had the great folks at Strategic Innovation take the lead on this, and we need to bring in more knowledgeable folks. I agree with that. Maybe a working group with technology and innovation and electric and everybody who really knows this industry to come together and give us a better view of what the city has and where we're going.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to just be very clear that access to information and access to data is vital for any decision. And many of you heard me talk about my background in information technology and that I'm data-driven. To stick your head in the sand and not collect data, you know what happens when you do that. This community is an educated community. We have 2 major universities and great community college here, as well as a technical college. Sure, we could probably find people to come to the table, working with neighbors and business owners to figure this thing out. But I think we need to be clear. We have, somewhere along the way, we have lost our way in being able to effectively communicate what we mean. I didn't understand that we were competing with the people in the business. But I did say at the last meeting, at the workshop, if you don't want competition, provide better service. Now, the reason that the legislature is over there doing what they're doing now is because sometimes people don't do what they can do and they don't do it right. So you have to legislate it to make them do it. I don't think that we're to that point, but we do need to know what is out there, not just today, but in the future. And to get hung up on how much it might cost today, because no one really knows, because no data has been gathered to really price it out, to just take that narrative and run with it, that's unfair to the people who did this work. And our staff did this work, and they did a dynamic job with the time that they had to do it in. So to take that and run with it, or to say we're trying to get into the business to compete, I don't think that's what we intended. All we're saying is that we need some information. We need more information. See, I grew up with the scientific method. The scientific method says you define the problem. Then you develop hypotheses. Then you work around that. Am I the only one that grew up with the scientific method? Okay. So what we're trying to do, we've defined the problem. Access in all parts of our town, all parts of our top 10 city in the South. We want to make sure everyone has access. The quality of life and the impact of poverty, we must have access to data. And it has to be affordable. So I'm on board if we want to use the university system, but to me, they seem to be kind of busy themselves. And it will still cost money because they're not going to do it for free because there are resources that will be required. It may be at a reduced price. But we have got to wrap our arms around, not now, but the future. And whether we want to do it the university system or we want to issue an RFP. See, I worked for the state of Florida in the past, and we produce RFPs to do feasibility studies because feasibility studies tells you whether you should go or not go. But if you don't have that objectively collected information, then how do you know whether to go or not go? We're not saying that we want to go out and write a check today for $280 million. We're not saying we want to go out here and roll up our sleeves and have the utility, very fine utility staff go out here and start laying fiber. That's not what we're saying. We're saying let's get the information. And how can we not do that in a town where we have 2 research universities? We should be able to do some research ourselves or hire someone to do that for us and then move our community forward in the direction that the feasibility study points us. Otherwise, we're walking in the blind. We're walking in the dark. And it reminds me of a story that I heard just on Sunday. It wasn't Baptist, but it was a new parable. A friend of mine said there was a young boy who was blind, and he had a sign collecting money, and the sign said, "I'm blind, please help." Every now and again, he got some money in his bucket. But a man came along and changed the words on his sign, and then more money came. And the little boy asked him, "What did you do? What did you change on my sign?" He said, "I said the same thing you said, but I said it differently." The sign said, "It's a beautiful day, but I can't see it." And just from that, people began to come to help him by giving him money. Tallahassee, it's a beautiful day. Can you see it? If not, we need to get some help to help us see it. Not just this day, but for the little Daily boys that were sitting here, and the SGA president, and the young lady in the back who's a member of Scouting. Stand up, sweetheart. She's in Scouting. It's no longer called Boy Scouts. She's making sure that they don't call her a Boy Scout. She's a Scout. These are the people that we are needing to do this for the future. And I'm ready to move forward with doing just that.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro-Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that we're all trying to get to the same goal, but we're approaching it from different perspectives. I left the last meeting thinking that staff and the city manager and staff had been given the direction to come back with an RFP to establish whether or not we should go into the broadband business as a city. I left away from that meeting thinking that that was the direction that the city manager and staff was given. Do I agree that we need broadband in this community? I absolutely do. I'm as concerned with the future as anyone that has spoken, anyone at this dais. We all need to be, because we know that we need it for a variety of reasons, to be economically competitive, to provide the resources that our children and grandchildren and their children will need in order to be competitive in this ever-changing world that's driven so much by technology. So I think we all agree with that. It's how we get there is where we differ. Now, I'm not one that I'm not a business person. I've been in education all of my professional career. But what I don't believe, and it's incongruent with where we say we're trying to go as a community. You know, I tell people all the time, we got fat and happy off of state government jobs. And 25 years or so ago came along a governor that said we're going to start reducing the size of state government in this community. And all of a sudden we said, uh-oh, what's happening here? And those jobs started disappearing. And those state employees were not getting raises commensurate with the work that they were doing and keeping pace with inflation. And so we began to tell ourselves, we've got to get serious about expanding our private sector base and creating those high-tech, high-skilled jobs of the future and lessening our dependence on state government. This, to me, is incongruent with that. We ought to be supporting private industry, not bashing companies that have chosen to come to our community and provide a service. Are we satisfied with that service? Maybe not. Is it cost effective for us? Maybe not. But I don't think that we should sit here and bash those companies that have contributed to our community, private industry jobs. And there are people who work for those companies who, they don't make what the CEO makes, but they make enough to take care of their families and to support themselves right here in this community. And I think we ought to acknowledge that. If we have issues, we need to work through those issues with those private companies, and I think that we can do that. I think they've heard the comments, and if they haven't, there may be a time in the future when we might be having this discussion again, and I may be on the other side of it. If they can't show me and show us that they've heard our comments and are willing to earnestly address those comments. Is there anyone more concerned about the digital divide than myself? I don't know. I think we're all concerned about that. We know it's an issue that needs to be addressed, and those companies ought to be willing to address it. And so I think we all agree on that, and I think I agree with Commissioner Bryant that there's another way that we can go to approach this and get the same type of information that we need for this decision-making process. This study that we're talking about, there are costs involved, a minimum of $100,000, a minimum. Who knows what the maximum might be? $250,000, $280,000, but there is a cost. And that cost has to come from somewhere in a budget that's already been established for this fiscal year. Where is it going to come from? Our Community Human Service Partnership budget, our utility budget, our cemetery budget. It has to come from somewhere. It's not just going to rain out of the sky, that $100,000 or more. And if we had that kind of money to put into an unbudgeted item, there are certainly other places that I would recommend it be spent than a study of this sort at this time. We have 17, potentially 18 private providers of internet and broadband service in this community. We talked with a company just recently that's looking at coming to our community, and they were spooked by the notion that the city would try to get into the broadband business. They're talking about 24 jobs immediately. And we had discussions about serving other aspects of our community and addressing the digital divide and diversity in that workforce that they're talking about. We had those discussions with them during the course of this week. But they were spooked because they heard this discussion going on and thinking that the city might at some point want to compete with them. And I'm sure we may have spooked others that might have had some interest in that kind of conversation. I don't think government should be competing with private industry in that respect. And if we have good business community partners, they will hear what we've had to say and address those issues. The other thing I want to mention, because this isn't as simple as it sounds, the 4 cities in the state of Florida that have broadband services all came online in the mid-1900s, or 1990s, with the exception of one. And I think they came on board in 2005. 2005 is when the state legislature passed regulations that makes it almost impossible for a municipality to get into the broadband business. If you look at those regulations, that you have to be solvent within 4 years, where there are studies that show there are some cities that have already gone into the broadband business that may not be solvent for 60 years. 60 years. And our state requires that you earn or turn a profit in 4 years. What will be the cost of putting the infrastructure in place? So those are issues that we haven't discussed, but if you look at the state statute, they will impact our success at doing that, even if we wanted to. No other city has done it thus far since the mid-1990s, with the exception of one. And I don't know what the status of their foray into that is at this point. There are studies that have shown that municipalities entering into the broadband business, that there are significant risk involved in that, regardless of the amount of or how you configure that. There are still risks involved, and I'm not sure. We don't know if we want to take those risks at this point. Last couple of points I'd like to make, or one last point I'd like to make is at our retreat, we established 4 strategic priorities for the city of Tallahassee, and our budget was built around those 4 strategic priorities. This was not one of them. And I think that if we are going to include this, if we wanted to even consider it, it should go through that same process, that the community tells us that this is one of our priorities. I believe in this. It's the future. It's where we're going. But as Commissioner Bryant said, we've got to do it in a strategic way and not this policy making on the fly where it comes up, and we haven't had a chance to have full discussion on it. I applaud Commissioner Matlow for bringing it up, because in the 4 years that I've been here, it hasn't come up as an issue, and so I applaud you for that, Commissioner Matlow, and taking the initiative to bring it before us. I think we can make it happen, but I think we should work with our private sector providers to make it happen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So first of all, let me paraphrase your motion, Dr. Bryant, and make sure that we're all on the same page. And it's for staff to work with the university community and Tallahassee Community College, the business community, and others that are interested in coming to the table to identify where we are, what are our community challenges, while exploring new strategies and technologies that will enable us to be able to move the community forward. Basically, we are gathering the information and gathering the data.
That's a good recap.
Excellent.
But let me add, because you brought it up, that it's very specific that we're not proceeding with an RFP.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Commissioner Matlow.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I agree we should be strategic about it. I agree we should plan. So if we're open to it, let's take the RFP off the table. But I do think the city staff, we have very talented city staff, and they should be involved in the process. So I think if we, and I like to make this an alternative motion, and I'm going to take out everything that has to do with cost or spending or private enterprise from it. But I think we should convene a working group with the professionals in strategic innovation, T&I, and electric to address 6 of the key things that were laid out. I think that's the national and local landscape of broadband, a community overview of here in Tallahassee, an analysis of the local market, the needs assessment of our city, our existing technology, and our strengths and weaknesses. And that will give us the true white paper of what we need, why we need it, where we need it. It wouldn't come back with any type of recommendation for building anything. It would just be that true overview of information. And I think we should do that internally, just because, like Commissioner Williams-Cox said, I appreciate the invitation. I think we should work with the private sector, but I don't think they have the resources to really take the lead on this for a city issue. And that's a long motion.
It's longer than mine.
City Manager, take a shorthand.
Okay, hold on just a second. Hold on. Okay, let me understand real quickly. So you're suggesting just have an in-house study with staff and not involve the university community and not involve
No,
the private sector?
they're welcome to be, and I'll add that, and engage with the private sector and our university communities as we answer these questions.
I don't even think it needs an amendment. I mean, I think that is all captured specifically in the original motion that was made. And I'm looking at staff. Are we?
The only issue, I think, is perhaps the working group. I don't know if that was captured.
Well, that's why I was trying to paraphrase to make sure that,
Mr. Mayor.
hold on just a second, Commissioner, to make sure that everybody was on the same page. And that's why, Mr. City Manager, I was asking you when Dr. Bryant was making the motion, if we understood, when you mentioned bringing together the university community and the business partnership, and I went even so far as to say, and other people that would be interested to come to the table, is that the working group? Does that meet the definition?
Mr. Mayor, if I can try to reconcile these two things,
Please.
what I heard. Commissioner Bryant indicated collaboration, in particular with our universities, presumably having some expertise and knowledge of technology and maybe where technology may head. And I heard Commissioner Matlow talk about using our internal resources, loosely using the term working group. I think that would be our internal experts, to largely mirror a scope that I provided you I believe yesterday. It's our draft scope in terms of how we would proceed with some type of study. I'm not sure those two things are exactly the same. I think that would take some massaging. In fact, at the conclusion of your vote at the last meeting, the direction was to issue an RFP to hire a professional to look at a feasibility study. And internally as staff, we had been thinking about how we would do that, what the scope might be, how we proceed, and we had drafted some notes, again, which I had provided you yesterday. I had planned to bring that agenda item back to you so we could discuss it more to make sure we were on the right page. I think this scope would be fluid. I think clearly we would be evaluating technology. I think we'd be evaluating our local landscape. I think our experts, our staff experts, have a lot of information to share as it relates to that. We do own a considerable amount of fiber, and so I think they would add a great deal of information. However, I'm not sure we would be the best experts to evaluate the future of technology. I believe that's where your outside community would come into play, and potentially universities. I've not talked to them about it, but I would do my best to marry these. Now, I will tell you, this is a many-month process. This would not be a short process.
No, not at all.
I would ask for at least 6 months to make progress on this. So I'm hoping I'm articulating what I've heard to marry these two things together. I do believe we have expertise to lend, but I believe we would need outside help. Largely, that's what we were attempting to rely upon a professional to do, but to use our university community or other experts, we could certainly work toward that end.
Sure. Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Are we getting closer, Commissioner Matlow? Dr. Bryant?
I believe we're getting closer. If we get a summary of.
Can I get in this double dutch?
Hold on just a second. Commissioner Matlow's got the floor. Go ahead.
I'll pass it to Williams-Cox, but if we get a summary of exactly how those were married together, then I'd be able to.
Let me go to the maker of the motion first. Dr. Bryant, are you comfortable with the language that Commissioner Matlow put out there?
What I'd like to do is get them married together. I think he had sufficient detail to what I said, so if you put those together, I think we're there. And to direct.
I'm comfortable with, that's what I'm asking. Are we there?
I'm there.
All right, friendly
I'm
amendments,
there.
accepted.
Friendly
Excellent.
amendments.
Commissioner
There you go.
Williams-Cox, and then we'll go to the Mayor Pro-Tem, and then let's bring this in for Landon. I think
Okay.
we're there.
My question is, are we concerned about the cost of an RFP? Is that the real issue? Commissioner Bryant, is that the real issue, cost of an RFP?
No, I don't think that's the real issue.
Okay.
That's part of the issue, but that's not the only part of it.
Okay, because my concern is using staff time has dollars associated with it as well. And when they're tied up doing this, then that means that they can't be doing the other things that need to be done. And that is typically why you will hire someone from the outside, because there are people who do this all day, in every way, that we could then have them do that and report back to us. And if the issue is that, as Commissioner Richardson said, that we didn't budget for it, then we're in the budget cycle for next year. What about looking at it, looking at the cost of an RFP being a part of the next budget cycle? Because as I just heard the city manager say, it would take at least 6 months to get this thing going anyway. So if we build for it in the next budget cycle, get a professional where we're not interfering with the university's priorities and what they're doing, and not taking up our staff time to do this, with experts to do this, then could we not just build it in the budget for the next fiscal year and prepare to go out with a professional via an RFP?
That's a very good point that you brought up. I think that we can handle it in-house with the new leadership style and the management that we have in place with our creative team that is already working on issues like this and already have a good lead in. What we need to do is morph that working group into a broader community working group that includes the university community, Tallahassee Community College, the private sector, to address the specific issues that Commissioner Matlow has also brought up, which I agree with, and I think they're fantastic. And I do think that we could do it in-house. My original concern was not just the cost of the RFP, but the direction of the original motion, which was to get into the utility business by creating a fiber optic utility. That's all off the table. Let's don't rehash
No,
that.
I didn't think that was, I'm sorry, I guess I went back and read the minutes, and it was for an RFP to do a feasibility study.
Correct, to study about the city of Tallahassee creating a utility to move into the broadband business. Regardless, that's off the table. We're heading in a new direction. I support the motion on the table. Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mine was just procedurally. I wanted to make sure that because I seconded the motion, that Commissioner Bryant was comfortable with the amendment, and I hear that she is comfortable with it, so my second stands, and I'm ready to vote on the issue.
Sounds great. I think we're in a great place.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Point of clarification, then Commissioner Matlow?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to, because that was some clarity I needed. There is no presumption or predirection about the operation of the utility to be a public utility. This would be more the landscape, the status of where we are in the future of the technology.
That's what I'm hearing. Thank you. Absolutely. Commissioner Matlow?
Yeah, can I summarize, or do we have an exact summary of what's on the table? I just want to make sure we're including the things that were laid out in the potential scope that we mentioned to be addressed. We're convening a working group of staff to gather that information, and they're engaging with the private sector and the universities to answer any questions they may have along the way. Is that what we're talking about? Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just one other thing, because I want this message to be loud and clear to our private sector providers. I certainly support you. I'm glad you're in our community, the jobs that you provide, the economic impact, but I certainly hope that they have heard what this community has said and will immediately begin to address those issues. Don't discount that, because if you do, you may do it at your own peril, because, like I said, a year from now, we may be addressing this issue if the concerns of this community are not heard and addressed by our private sector partners.
Can I wait one final point?
Absolutely, Commissioner Matlow.
Just to echo on Commissioner Williams-Cox's point, it would be helpful as we go down this process, Mr. City Manager, if there are things we find outside of our expertise or outside of the university's expertise and we need help on them, to just let us know as those arise, so when we get into budgeting talks, if we need a plan for that in the future, we're able to, and we're not trying to play catch up next year.
We have clear understanding of the motion on the table. It's been properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, it passes unanimously 5-0. We are now on, we're going to take up one more issue, which is 11.03, and then we will take a short break before the public hearing at 6 o'clock. Passing the gavel to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I will make this brief, but this is so important and it's very appropriate. During Women's History Month, the last few days of the month, although we celebrate women's history 365 days of the year. And I first want to recognize Miss Alexandria Alex Washington. Alex, if you would stand, please, and be recognized. Alex, you all may have read her opinion column in the Tallahassee Democrat recently, where she brought to our attention the arcane language in our city charter that specifically addresses the male in terms of the pronouns in that charter, even though we had a long-serving and successful female city manager. We currently have a very talented and capable and city attorney that is female, but the language in the charter referred to the male, using the male, those positions using the male pronoun. And so it's an appropriate time for us to bring our city charter into the 21st century and make the language gender neutral so that it encompasses all of the talent that exists in this community regardless of gender. And so I'm asking that the commission give the city manager and our attorney direction to come back with an ordinance that we would adopt that would reflect that effort to make our charter gender neutral.
I move the acceptance of that recommendation.
Okay,
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Williams-Cox. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bryant. Any questions, comments?
Just thank you for adding it. I think I read the op-ed, and it's a great idea, and it's about time. So
thank you, thank you.
Commissioner Richardson,
Thank you, Alex.
do we want to hear from
Yes,
Ms. Washington?
yes, I was about to ask
She had
for that
filled out a
before
speaker
we
form, so I wanted to be sure we didn't miss that.
take a final vote.
Thank you all for having me today. My name is Alexandria Washington, for the record, 830 East Park Avenue. Tallahassee is a place that I have come to love and a place that has embraced me for the past 9 years. It is a city that people come to work, play, and eventually stay. A place that continues to open its arms for anyone that wants to be here. Although we have changed the face of what Tallahassee looks like, we are still haunted by the words governing Tallahassee. Words that acknowledge what he is empowered to do. Words that dismiss and do not reflect the historical contributions that women alike have made to Tallahassee. For more than 18 years, our city was blessed to have a fiercely talented city manager, Anita Favors Thompson, who worked under a city charter that was written to only acknowledge men in that role. The same thing can be said today for our fierce and talented city attorney, whose presence, once again, is not reflected in our city charter. Too often, we focus on making the picture perfect and representative of our community that we forget the words that go along the caption. Words matter, and it's time that the words we read reflect our ever-changing society and the contributions that women have made and continue to make to our society. It's time that we take action and ensure that our city charter includes gender-neutral language. I hope you all can tell how much I love our city, and it's because of the love that I have for our city and how it has helped me grow that I want our city to be inclusive of everyone here. Not just through the picture that we paint, but through the rules that govern us. I'm thankful for the commissioners who read my opinion piece and reached out to me with support, and I'm extremely thankful to Commissioner Richardson's prompt action and his request to introduce a gender-neutral ordinance regarding the city charter, and sincerely hope that his fellow commissioners and our mayor will also be willing to act. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex.
Good job.
Do we have
Thank
any
you,
other
Alex.
public comment?
We do not on this item.
Excellent. Mr. Mayor Pro-Tem.
Well, Commissioner Williams-Cox made the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Williams-Cox made the motion.
Yes, Commissioner Bryant seconded it.
Excellent. Any further comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Folks, we're going to take a 15-minute break. We'll be back at 6 o'clock for the public hearing. It is the public hearing. We are on item number 15.01. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor.
Excuse me, Madam Attorney.
Thank you. Item number 15.01 is the first and only final public hearing for ordinance number 19-0-001, an ordinance of the City of Tallahassee, Florida, amending Section 6 of the Charter of the City of Tallahassee to annex within the corporate area of the City of Tallahassee, Florida, upon adoption of said ordinance, property being situated in Leon County, Florida, in accordance with the voluntary annexation provisions of Section 171.044 Florida statutes, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date. The applicant has requested the public hearing be continued until June 19, 2019. However, if anyone is here desiring to speak on this item, we will take public comment.
This item is going to be continued until June. This item is going to be continued until June. However, is there anyone here that would like to speak to the item? See none. Commissioners, it's going to be continued. Let's go to the next item. 15.02, please.
Thank you. Item number 15.02 is the first and only public hearing on the Second Amendment to the Integrated Development Order for the Southwood Development of Regional Impact.
Do we have anybody from the public that is here to speak on this item?
Mayor, I have one speaker form. That's John Curtis. That's the only speaker I have on this item or the next public hearing, and I believe his comments may speak to both items. But
thank you. Mr. Curtis.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is John Curtis.
Mr. Curtis, will you give me just a second? Hey, folks, if we can bring it down just a little bit so we can hear Mr. Curtis, that'd be great. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is John Curtis. I am the St. Joe representative for Southwood, and I'm on here tonight to basically answer any questions and also working with FSUS as they do their expansion, and we work with the entitlements to see that community grow and be a part of a larger community of Tallahassee.
Great to see you. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Move staff recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Hold on just a second. Do we have any other public speakers?
We have no other speakers.
Is there anybody that's here that would like to speak on this item that hasn't had a chance to fill out a form yet? Seeing none, the Mayor Pro-Tem moves the item, properly seconded by Dr. Bryant. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 15.03.
Item number 15.03 is ordinance number 19-Z-04. It's the first and only public hearing. An ordinance of the City of Tallahassee, Florida, amending the Southwood Plan Unit Development on the official zoning map of the City of Tallahassee, adopted and established by the City Commission, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
No speakers on this item.
No speakers on this item.
Move staff recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Item's been properly moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Williams-Cox. Seeing no further comment or debate, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously 5-0. Mr. City Manager, do we have anything else on the public hearings?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
We are now on unagenda business speakers. Is there anyone here that has filled out a comment card for unagenda business speakers?
You want unagenda speakers now, or you want to take your policy items first and then come to unagenda at the end?
But, correct me, thank you, I appreciate it. By law, do we have to do the unagenda business speakers first?
We do
because
not.
of the public hearing?
We do not have a requirement to do them at this point.
Sounds good. We'll go back to
1301.
I believe we're at 13.01.
13.01, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. This item is regarding the Master's in Public Administration degree program at Florida State University, Askew School of Public Administration. It is one of the top programs in our nation. The program prepares students with foundations for management in the public sector and nonprofit organizations with a focus on creative problem solving, integrity, stewardship, and skills in research and administration. It directly relates to what we do every day. Approximately 100 students go through the program every year. Dr. Gary Van Landingham, the MPA director of the Askew School, is here, as well as Mr. Dan Clayman, executive in residence for the spring 2019 semester. You will know him better as our former city manager that spent 20 years with us, and his legacy carries on. The good things that he did, we still benefit from today. They together are here to share some information about the program and how it can help the City of Tallahassee. Gentlemen.
Gentlemen, it is great to have you here.
Mr. Mayor and members of the Commission, my name is Dan Clayman. I'm currently residing on Fern Glen Drive here in Tallahassee. And having watched your Commission meeting tonight, I was reminded of how challenging are the jobs that you have and how much we all should appreciate you more than we do. So I thank you for what you do. You deal with challenging problems for which there are rarely simple answers. But to get to my reason for being here, as Reese said, I have the honor of serving as an executive in residence in the Askew School of Public Administration this semester, and as such have become associated with the kinds of resources that are available in the Askew School that we think can be made much more available to the City of Tallahassee. And so what we seek is a better working relationship. To that end, I would simply like to introduce to you Dr. Gary Van Landingham, who is the director of the Master of Public Administration program. And he'll tell you in a little more detail about what some of those resources are. Thank you.
Dr. Van Landingham, great to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Gary Van Landingham, and I reside at 7204 Jaffrey Court. And as you've heard, the SU School is a great resource for the state and for the city. And what we're trying to do is create new opportunities for our students to gain practical experience by helping organizations solve real problems as part of their plan of study. And starting in the fall, we're going to be setting up a Capstone project report where teams of students will go out and work with governments and work with nonprofits to help them research issues and solve problems, gain practical experience, give back to the community, and build the bridges that Florida State wants to build with the community. So our ask would be that you and your staff would work with us to identify projects where we can help solve some of the problems facing the city, and we can send some of our very bright, hard-working young career professionals to help you to do your job and to help serve the citizens of this city. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
I think it is a wonderful idea. How do you propose we move forward?
I would propose that we just open up a conversation and we can talk with you and the city manager to identify areas where we can work with you and your staff. This would start in the fall, but we would like to have those conversations earlier so we can tee up some of those issues where we can help.
Excellent.
Are you interested in broadband?
I knew that was coming. Potentially we could help with parts of that, and we can start a conversation with my colleagues at the university to see if we can bring some other departments into this.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I love the idea. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
And I am a proud graduate of your program as well.
And we hope to see you back in the PhD program.
I hope to come back if you'll have me. Mr. Clayman, it's so good to see you, and welcome back before the City Commission. I grew up during your time as city manager, and you were absolutely fantastic, and it's always nice to see you, and thanks for contributing back to the school and to the community. Glad to have you. All right, next item. We are on 13.02, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is an update on the progress of the Mission, Vision, and Values Working Group that we established following your retreat in January. It will provide an update on its progress as well as the next steps in the development of the strategic plan. As we've discussed previously, the review and the establishment of a strong, firm mission, vision statement and organizational values is the predicate for the development of your strategic plan, which we're very much looking forward to. Many of the members of the working group are here tonight, and if I could just pause for a second and have you stand, I really appreciate the work that you've done. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the work that you did. I know when I talked to Christian and the team that were providing support to you, they thought they had 4 months. I said, I think you've got 4 weeks, and you guys rose to the challenge and have met every week since, I believe, and I appreciate what you've done. And Mayor and Commissioners, this is a mixed group. It includes city employees as well as members of our public, and I understand they've worked very well together, and I appreciate that. Tonight, Christian Doolin, he's our manager of strategic innovation. His group has provided staff support for this effort. He's going to kick the presentation off and then introduce the other speakers for the update.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, City Managers, appointed officials. I'm delighted to present this item. I've enjoyed, and our team has enjoyed working with this working group. It's been great. I regret that Talitha Edwards had to step out for 1 minute, and she will be back hopefully in time for the any questions that you might have. In the meantime, Mikhail Scott, Devin Levins, and Linda Roberts are going to give an overview and an update on the progress they've made over the past 6 weeks, and I'll turn it over to them. Devin. I'm sorry, Mikhail, go ahead. And I'm not sure, I want to make sure this, I don't know if the PowerPoint's working. But.
There you go.
There it is.
afternoon, Mayor and the Commission. Thank you all for the opportunity to come and present this, what we've been working on for the last several weeks. I'm happy to be here and also happy to be a part of this working group. I think we want to talk about the considerations. So essentially, I'd imagine you all are kind of questioning or have questions about how we came to the mission, value, and vision that we have now. And we actually went through an amazing process, bringing in a lot of diversity into this group. As City Manager mentioned, it's citizens as well as city employees. So I think that diversity really gave us a new perspective on how to change and refresh these mission, vision, and values. One of the things that we really wanted to make sure is that we were kind of humanizing them because, 20 years ago, I think these mission, vision, and values were great for that period in time, but recognizing that we're trying to take Tallahassee to a new place, looking to the future, it was important for us to make sure that we humanize and made sure that these mission, vision, and values didn't just reflect the people that work at the city, but also making sure that the people that are part of the community recognized them and felt like they were at home as well. We know that Tallahassee is a very unique place, a lot of diversity, and we wanted to make sure that that was a part of those statements and that we embrace the diversity that Tallahassee has. Also recognizing that our community is growing, and while growth and development is great, what makes Tallahassee so unique is the fact that we have a lot of natural resources that are just not anywhere else. You can't see them and can't find them in other places in our state, let alone our country. So we wanted to ensure that protecting those natural resources was a huge part of what we were doing. Also making sure that it was succinct and easy to recall. If you think about a mission, vision, and values, you want to see something that not only you read, but something that you remember and you embody in your mind and in your actions. And so that was all a part of what we wanted to do to make sure that people weren't just seeing these things, but that they were embracing them and making them a part of their everyday life. And I think that our working group did an amazing job of putting that together. And as you can see in some of these pictures, we actually got into the weeds with this stuff. We were writing these words down, telling ourselves, what do you think about when you look at something like integrity, when you think about diversity? What do those words bring? And what we've put together, I believe, reflects a full group perspective, and we hope that you all enjoy them.
Mayor, Commissioners, Devin Levins. I'm here on behalf of the team that we have put together, and I just want to present to you what's being proposed as the new vision, values, and mission. Is that better? So first, the draft organizational values. Honor public trust through ethical conduct, provide exceptional citizen service, lead with integrity at every level, collaborate to reach common goals, invest in employee excellence, and promote equality and celebrate diversity. One thing that I want to say here is we wanted to make sure that everything that you see in the value is a call to action, with that priority call to action being the ethical conduct. We thought that was something that was really important for us as a team to bring forward, and then you see everything that follows that is a call to action. The draft vision, a capital city looking to the future while remembering our past, sustaining a balance between growth and preservation of our natural resources, and providing cultural and economic opportunities for everyone while enriching and strengthening our community. This isn't just about the sticks and bricks, because we feel like that's what it is a lot of times. People want to see the sticks and bricks, what's being built, what's the built environment. But this is about how we build a community, how we build neighbors, how we become together as neighbors. So putting those two things together with preserving what we have and coming together as a community. And then our draft mission, to deliver exemplary services that positively impact our community. The one thing that we really focused on was that our community, it took us a long time to get to that because we wanted everyone to know that this is about the whole community, not just the employees of the city of Tallahassee, because at the end of the day, when we go home, we're community neighbors, citizens right there with everyone in our community. So that's kind of how we got into the mission, vision, and values. And with that, I want to hand it over to Linda.
That's okay. That's okay. We wanted to give you, before I go into the public engagement part, we wanted to give you a little bit more information about how a person would come to be on this committee, and it's such an honor, and I'm grateful to have it. Although I grew up in Reno, Georgia, which is a suburb of the great city of Cairo, Georgia, I loved Tallahassee even as a child. My favorite aunts lived here, and I came to appreciate so much of all that it offers to everyone. My husband, a retired TPD officer, and I came from the University of Georgia here 50 years ago. He also came here as a child to visit his grandparents and fell in love with the city. And had my father been willing to pay out-of-state tuition, I probably would have been a graduate of FSU, not gone to the University of Georgia. We stayed here, we raised our sons here, and both of them have chosen to stay in Tallahassee. Our roots run deep. We are passionate about this community, and some of you know I can never let the opportunity pass to mention the Tallahassee Senior Center. It is my passion. I am a volunteer, a participant, and a supporter, and that passion leads to a lot of other opportunities, and we thank the City of Tallahassee for being such a supporter of senior services. So, when Ashley Edwards from Parks and Rec called me to ask if I would be interested in being on this committee, I had some questions for her. You know, the usual question, what are the responsibilities, how much time, you know, what's the expectation? And so she said, okay. And then I asked her two very important questions for a senior and for people in general. Was it going to interfere with my travel and fun? And were the meetings going to start somewhat on time and end somewhat on time? And I think we were both satisfied with each other's answers. And it has been an absolute privilege to serve on this committee. This is an excellent staff and an outstanding group of people to serve with. And I need to say that we finished this in record time. Okay, so after we got everything together and we had our proposals for you, it was time to take it on the road and get some public engagement. So 4 places were selected to go to, and both staff and committee members were present at each of these centers. Okay, so public engagement. It sounds like a pretty simple thing to do, right? Okay. One of the challenges is that the public doesn't always want to engage because they're very busy with their own lives. For example, when we were at Jack McLean, people were coming to pick up their kids. They were coming to drop off their kids. They were coming to play basketball. They were coming to meetings. And after all, it's a community center, so that's why we're there. Okay, so we started out trying to entice them with, help me, Dennis, pop sockets, and charm. Well, after a while, I thought, I'm just going to go outside and greet people and, you know, give an idea of what we're doing and gently show them inside so we can get the public input and engagement that we want. And we did. We also went to the other places. We had another interesting experience at the Tallahassee Downtown Market. Now, we did learn from Jack McLean that if we had a big bowl of candy on the table, that people were more apt to come in and participate. So we had that on the other areas. But at the Downtown Market, we got input from a person from England, a person from Colorado, a person from the huge city of Crawfordville. So our input has an international flair to it. So, but we found that there was a common theme, although each of the locations had its own personality. There were some common themes that seemed to come through. First of all, they were very happy to see us there. They thanked us. They thanked the city for doing this and putting the committee together. They recognized, as has been said, that we were not trying to reinvent the wheel. We were looking at our 20-year-old current values and mission and vision and taking it and refining it and reviewing it and making it more suitable for this time. They seem to want to go and read the whole thing without zeroing in on specific words, but more the whole thought. However, they very much liked integrity, ethics, and community. The biggest concern that came across was, could the city and the community live up to these expectations and these standards, and how could they help? After all the conversation and everything, they generally liked it. They liked the fact that we had fine-tuned it. They liked the fact that the city had taken the time to have this committee get together and recommended what we recommended. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, how y'all doing today?
Hey.
Sorry, I'm running. I had to pick my kids up. from
Edward's
Piano.
good to see you.
Anyway, this has been working on the mission, vision, and values for the city of Tallahassee was a real treat. I remember the first day when we all got there, how quickly we all gel, which normally don't happen in work groups that fast. But as we worked together, we thought about, we put a lot of thought into the new proposed mission, vision, and values, because it wasn't that easy to go through the old and find something new, so to speak, or futuristic. And what we wanted to do as we created the new mission, vision, and values is we wanted what we wrote today to still be able to hold true 20 years from now, right? So we've got a lot of questions about why do we use this word or why do we use that word? And the purpose was some words are universal and they can transcend time. And that when we have someone 20 years like our group looking at these words, they can say, we can still see this, right? We can still see this happening. These are action-oriented things that I feel the city, not only the organization city, but people in the city can hold true and point out and say, I can see this happening. We also wanted to make sure that the new mission, vision, and value was encompassed of everybody. I would always ask the question when we proposed a line or a sentence, who are we leaving out? Who are we leaving out? Because we wanted to make sure that everyone who read that new mission, vision, and value would see themselves, would see their community. They would see the progress that we were trying to make as a city. So I hope that you all as well can see that reflected in the proposed mission, vision, and values that we brought for you today. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Talithia. So the mission, vision, value is a first step in our overall effort over the next few months to get to the 5-year organizational strategic plan. Moving forward, we have plans for continued community engagement that would include surveys, continued pop-up events, and continued updates before you to bring status on where we are across that progress. Additionally, we will be doing the organizational work of identifying the goals that map to this vision based on your feedback, the objectives that we can measure to those goals, and then start to begin aligning our strategies, our organizational strategies into that. So that will be the process, overlaid with community engagement and continued briefs, at least 3 more. And in September, we would have the plan. So very excited to bring this before you. We welcome your feedback, and I believe that action we request of you today is feedback for this mission, vision, and value draft that our working group could then take a look at and bring back for finalization. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that great presentation. Before we get into commission comment, do we have any public speakers on this item?
Mayor, we have one speaker on this item, Stanley Sims.
Pastor Sims, it would not be a normal city commission meeting without your presence here, sir. It's good to see you.
Give me a little time. I got Comcast and the download is slow.
3 minutes, Pastor Sims.
Is that Comcast or fiber optic? My name is Stanley Sims. I'm at 1320 Avondale Way. The Reverend Joseph Nathy said at Coretta Scott's funeral, will words become deeds in the moment? Now, all that was pretty, but can I feel it? Can I touch it? Can I experience it? That's when we have a community that is strong and together. And then when I think that why I'm here is I still see Miss Franklin in my mind on TV talking about this black male being shot up trying to get into a daycare. Why when we do these committees, we only ask people who will say what we want them to say, and not individuals who are known in this community to have challenges. Out of this very same office where Kristen Doolin works is where I am constantly having problems with access. So when will words become deeds? When will that happen? When will everyone in this community be able to access their government fairly? I've asked this commission to put on the agenda public access because some people in this community is still having problems having access to their government. My second problem is it's time that we have a real conversation, Mayor, about the leadership of our police department. We've given them more cops. We've given them more cars. We've given them more body cameras. But the leadership is not coming through. Summer is coming. And I'm afraid that if we've got all of these shots being fired and these things going on when it's cold, what's going to happen when it gets warm? And I just don't see, I see all of this fluff, but it ain't hitting D block because the shots are still being flying. They talk about all of these numerous community engagements and what we're doing, and Tempo finna come up here and tell you they done talked to 17,000 children and their lives been delivered, but we still got shots being fired. And I'm asking this commission to look at it. And I ain't the only one saying it, the officers are saying it. You've seen that report that came out from the PBA, Mayor. 86% of the officers got problem with their leadership. That's what we need to talk about. That's what Mr. Matlow be talking about when he said, don't just bring us the pretty stuff. Nobody in this community, in this work group, said anything wrong with Tallahassee. And we know that's a lie.
That's 3 minutes.
Thank you, Pastor Sims. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Pastor Sims, let me remind you that we are at the beginning of this process. This is the first step. Pastor Sims, let me have an opportunity to speak. And I know that they are going to be able, you can go ahead and sit down, it's okay. But we are going to have an incredible process that does involve the entire community. We appreciate your comments about our law enforcement as well. And of course, yes, we have hurdles and challenges in this community. And trust me, when we are all conscious and working forward to trying to solve these issues. Look forward to meeting with you tomorrow. Do we have any other members of the public that are here to speak?
We do not have any additional speakers on this item.
Okay, let me open it up for commissioner comments. And Mr. Mayor Pro-Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one observation, Christian. If you would go back to the vision. And so I assume tonight you want us to give you, and I only had one comment to make.
Yes, sir.
With respect to the vision. Yeah, okay. I mean, there may be some later, but.
Back to a slide. This slide should have all of the draft statements there.
Okay, yeah, it does. And when you say under the vision, and preservation of our natural resources, remembering our past, sustaining a balance between growth and preservation of our natural resources, could we include neighborhoods in there? Because so often we find growth and development encroaching on those neighborhoods, and we find neighborhood representatives in some instances feeling like they have to literally fight for their continued existence. And so if we could include natural resources and neighborhoods and providing cultural, and that would be my only input at this point.
Okay, understood, and the commission here hears that, or the working group hears that. We'll be glad to bring that back in the next item.
And that's always, of course, you know, has been one of the things that has defined Tallahassee is our traditional and even newly established neighborhoods. So we want to preserve that, and I think that goes forward 20 years, Talithia, like you mentioned. Okay.
Commissioner Matlow.
First off, thank you for your work, and thank you for the community volunteers who took it out of their personal time to help guide us. I was at the downtown farmers market one Saturday, and greeted by a tent of smiling city employees, just asking questions of the community. I think it was just a really good look for the city that we're out there. We want to hear from you and come together. My suggestion would be. Every day my boss calls me with a problem, and every day when they call, they remind me that they're my boss, and that is our community, that is our citizens, and so much about this public engagement process. And I think each one of you kind of mentioned that how community-driven we are, and I think I just want to make sure we're intentional in our goals. Like we are community-driven. What we do is because the community wants it, and they're the ultimate shot caller. We're just up here to do their will. So maybe incorporating something in the value, saying, the community, drives our city.
Okay, great. And you did just say goals too. So you
Right.
mean in related to the mission, vision, and value statements, will reflect that your comments in these statements. We'll have a chance to address goals.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Just wanna make sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Let me applaud you guys. You did an outstanding job. I was out there at the French market, and y'all let me spend a lot of money because you were doing your job and I was shopping. But you all done an outstanding job. I like the diversity in the group. You got the no season, some season, very season, and looking for season. So that's great. I'm glad to see that good mix. I want to just caution that we make sure that the language that we use is on at least no higher than 8th grade, so that everyone can, like she said, like Talithia say, see yourself, but you got to know what these words mean in order to see yourself in there. So I think that's a rule of thumb, a standard for writing to make sure, and I've seen some FCAT words in there that we might need to find some other words that might be, not as college level, I should say, if I would say.
Yeah, we've well understood, and we've in the different community events we've been targeting, we've been looking at kid events for that precise reason. So we'd be glad to take that under consideration.
Okay, and then the other thing is that, like Commissioner Matlow, I want to make sure that our community knows that they are our boss. We are listening to them. I heard recently that someone said that I made a comment about I got an email from a citizen. I'm proud that our citizens will email me or call me or talk to me or stop me in the grocery store. So they are our bosses, and so I would like to include somewhere here where we're listening to our constituents, listening to our neighbors, listening to the folks in our community. And you may have that in there somewhere, but I just want to make sure that they know we are listening, and we invite them, like with the public engagement. We are looking for ways to engage them. That's why we're at Gilchrist. We're looking for ways to engage them. So great job, great job, absolutely.
Excellent. Dr. Bryant?
Yes, let me commend you, first of all, for coming together and putting your minds together, getting input to come up with the first round on mission, vision, and values. I'm going to move probably backwards, but the value statements are outstanding. I want you to know you did an excellent job developing value statements. The mission and vision, I'm going to ask that I probably will work with you. Vision has to paint a picture of the future that does not exist today. That's what vision is about. And mission actually tells the purpose for why you exist, and it should reflect you, who we are as the city of Tallahassee. It can't be everybody, every agency, any organization. It has to be us. So those are the only two comments I have, because the specifics of it, I'm going to invest some time and work with you to try and help us to get a little bit more refined in the mission and vision. But I really want to commend you for these values, because that's kind of the bedrock for me, who we are, fundamental values. So thank you so much for a job well done.
Any other comments?
Mayor, if I may, I just want to take just a second and thank the city manager, commend him for putting together the group that he did. I think he was given a short time frame and then a challenge to get a group large enough to represent a cross-section of the organization as well as the community, and then also to ask them to turn that around in short order. And as I look at the group assembled, I too appreciate their work and also appreciate the fact that in addition to, I think someone said, seasoned and less seasoned and different things, I do see people who've been part of our organization for a short period of time and people who've been here for a long time. And I think that that mix adds us great value, so I appreciate the managers doing that.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. I need a motion for the second half, option number 1, which is to direct staff to present finalized working group draft at the April 24th commission meeting, made by the Mayor Pro-Tem, seconded by Commissioner Matlow. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. We are on 1303. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. This item involves the naming of some gymnasiums in our city's parks and recreation facilities. You heard some comments early in the agenda about that. And we actually have a policy, a parks and recreation facility naming policy that specifies that requests for naming parks and recreation facilities can be recommended by the public to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, who in turn presents names selected by the board to the City Commission. That's where we are tonight. So during the January meeting, that board voted unanimously to recommend that the gymnasiums at the Lawrence Gregory, Walker Ford, and Jack McLean Community Centers be named in honor of Greg Grady, Joe Thomas, and the late Phyllis Bush, respectively. Each of these individuals served a full career serving Tallahassee, serving our youth. You've heard a little bit about that earlier today, and I'd just like to pause for a moment as we recommend you vote to make this official. I'd like to pause for just a minute and have Ashley Edwards recognize these individuals for the work they've done and to celebrate this this moment.
Edwards.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. First, let me start off by introducing Mr. Greg Grady and Mr. Joe Thomas and ask them to stand, please, for a moment. They're both here tonight, and I'd like to recognize them. Dr. Powell did an outstanding job in enumerating the legacy that Mr. Grady has left on our community, and I can tell you without hesitation that Phyllis and Joe both left equally as impressive legacies in their respective roles. Joe Thomas, Walker Ford would not be what it is today, but for Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas is also one of our longest serving Parks and Recreation employees ever. He's not the longest serving, but one of them in the very top echelon at 37 years. Very impressive. And Phyllis Bush, who her son could not be here tonight with us, but is her legacy at Jack McLean Park in particular. She established that facility. The programs and the culture that's there today is in no small part because of her efforts. Some people don't realize, though, she also served as one of the city's original neighborhood affairs liaisons way back in the day, and she also served time at the J. Gaither Community Center, Dave Street, and Lafayette Park. I could go on and you know, talked about what their impact has been, but I think the easiest way to explain it is that their impact, all three of them, extends well beyond the walls of the gymnasiums that we're hoping you will name after them today. Their impact is felt out in the community, in the lives that they touched, the kids that they raised, because that's what they have been to this community. They have been surrogate parents. It's a legacy that all of our staff carry with us, and the people that have followed them in these centers model their examples every day, and it's part of what makes the Parks and Recreation Department such a special part of our community. So on behalf of their co-workers, I recommend to you without hesitation and hope that you will endorse this recommendation of the Parks Advisory Board. Thank you.
Do we have any public speakers on this item?
Mayor, we have one speaker. I'm sorry, I think we have two speakers on this item. First is Helen Gaines, and then Pastor Rudy Ferguson.
Ms. Candace, great to see you. Thank you for coming out.
Almost good night. I'm not much of a speaker, but I speak from my heart. I met park and recreation centers when my kids was young. And first I used to live out in the Macon community. But when my kids found out there was a place they can go where it was safe, they started going down to Dave Street Recreation Center. Then I moved on the south side of town. Then my son, I had two sons, they found Walker Forge. So my son used to come home and say, Mama, I know what I want to do. I know what I want to do. I said, you do know what you want to do? Yes. I want to go to school and become a physical education person. I said, what? I said, well, that'll be good. And he said, I want to work in the park and recreation. Because I met this tall man. He was so tall, Mama, but you know when he said, that's enough, that's enough. And he, to me, he was showing that he gave love to those children. He worked very hard. And unfortunately, my son isn't here to speak. I'm speaking for him. My son went to Florida A&M University, got his degree in park and recreation, and he got hired at Dave Street Recreation Center. And unfortunately, in 2005, my son was killed. It's one of the unsolved murder cases here in Tallahassee, which I know we will solve it, because Tallahassee have a tendency to come back and find you, no matter what you do. But I would love, in my heart, for me and my son Sylvester, that we name this gymnasium in the behalf of Mr. Grady. They're hard-working people. They love children. They don't. My son, when he was working, he would say, Mama, I won't never leave a child without the parents come picking them up. And the same thing. Mr. Grady and them did a Sylvester Davis Day, which was a success. And also, we just work. And I'm so proud that to be living in Tallahassee, that we have people that really care for younger people. And if we can put his name on the gymnasium, I would appreciate it. And from Sylvester, give people their flowers while they can smell them.
Thank you so much. Pastor Ferguson, good to see you, sir.
Lock the doors.
But I'm going Baptist today. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I want to say thank you for the opportunity for these two gentlemen to be placed, and I like to say in the Hall of Fame, because they've earned it. I'm a living testimony that they have earned it. Growing up in both of these recreational facilities at a young age, 16, 15, I had the privilege of working for Mr. Joe during the summer camp. And I can say definitely that no matter how much trouble I gave him, he never fired me. But nevertheless, as I got older, I found out that you can get fired from places. But I had the opportunity also to know Mr. Greg Grady at opportunities when I gave him a little trouble in my teen years at the center. And he disciplined me as a father should, Mr. Joe as well. So to come here today, I don't understand it wouldn't be an argument, rather. But moreover, this is such a great privilege for the younger generation who don't know these two gentlemen. And we don't have a lot of recreational facility coordinators, directors like these two gentlemen are here today. Some just do their job, but I believe, and I've seen it with my own eyes, that they've done their job with true care, fatherhood, and really embraced us. And a lot of young men didn't make it to be that age I am now, and I can say I'm probably 47. And when I look at them, and I look like I'm older than they are. the life of a pastor. But I also say to that, that without any further ado, I'm hoping, I do pray, that this opportunity doesn't pass us by today, and that it'll be a privilege to walk into these recreational centers and see their names there graciously put there, so the other generation, young kids, can see the hard work and labor that these gentlemen has really put into Griffin Heights and the south side of town. So with that, again, I say thank you, Mr. Mayor, commissioners, Ms. Ashley, and all those who worked very hard to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, Reverend.
Do we have any more speakers from the public?
That was the last speaker on this item.
Anybody else care to speak on this item? Open it up for commission discussion. We'll get the Vice Mayor, and then we'll get down to Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am just proud that we're able to do this this evening. I've known Greg, Joe, and Phyllis for a long time. Greg and I were students at Florida State University. During the same time, I used to beat him in one-on-one on the basketball court. He wouldn't tell anybody that. I'm sorry, Greg. I shouldn't have said that. I gave it away. But all three have just been stellar individuals during their time in this community generally. I've had the opportunity through one way or another over the years to interface them in their work in our parks and recreation department, and specifically at Walker Ford, and for Greg also Lawrence Gregory and Phyllis at Jack McLean, and each has done a stellar job over the course of their careers, and they have been much more than employees, and they saw their job as being much more than employees. Each of them has been a surrogate parent for thousands of children who have come through our parks and recreation system. And I can tell you, there are nights when the doors close at the rec center and kids are just going home, Greg and Joe and Phyllis would look out for their safety and parent them as if they were their own children. They've been excellent role models and have been upstanding individuals themselves and examples for these young people to follow. And so for us to be able to preserve their legacy and memories this way, as we all will move on later in life, but to enshrine them forever in this way is the least we can do. Now, Boss Man talked about something greater that we could do, and I would hope that for each of them we could have done that. But certainly this is one way that we can show our deep appreciation for the work that each of them have done and continue to do in the case of Greg and Joe in the community, even to this day. So I'm proud to make the motion, Mr. Mayor, that we do follow staff recommendation and name these gymnasia after the individuals that are being recommended.
Staff recommendation has been properly moved by the Mayor Pro-Tem, seconded by the Mayor. Commissioner Williams-Cox. Do you have a comment as well?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was waiting for the second, but you did. Okay. I just want to say that these gentlemen and our beloved Phyllis Bush, their work speaks for itself. My grandmother used to say, may the work I've done speak for me, so that when I'm resting in my grave, there is nothing else that can be said. And you two gentlemen, Phyllis is resting in heaven, but she did her work before she went to heaven. And we applaud you for all of the families that you have impacted, those you knew and those you did not know, but knew that you meant business and didn't give you any trouble, like Pastor Ferguson. The ones that gave you trouble, they became ministers, right? but we appreciate what you've done, and I've had an opportunity to interact with you as well. We need more like you, so please go find your replacements and get them to Ashley, so that we can get you back in these rec centers. We need you in our communities. Thank you for your service.
Absolutely. Thank you. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 13.04, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Earlier this year, you identified public safety, economic development, and quality of life among your organizational priorities, and we've been talking over the last 18 months, 18 short months, about a program that has demonstrated great success in helping our disconnected youth in our community. We estimate that to be about 7,000 disconnected youth. It had a modest goal of about 70 participants in the first year. We far exceeded that, and I'm not going to steal the thunder of Dr. Kimball Thomas because he's got plenty to share, but I wanted to take a moment. We reached a milestone in this program, and we just wanted to take a moment to share the progress of the Tempo program with you tonight. Deputy City Manager Cynthia Barber is here, as well as Dr. Kimball Thomas, and they're here to provide you an update on the program.
Dr. Thomas.
Mayor Daley, good evening, respective commissioners, City Manager Gold, respective city staff, and all those who are gathered here. I want to update you on Tallahassee engaged in meaningful productivity for opportunity youth, known to you as Tempo. Thank you for this opportunity. As you can see, this program initially was written to address the need to engage 16 to 24-year-olds who were in our community, had certain characteristics about them when they were unengaged. Initially, they're individuals who have left school without a high school diploma, don't have a GED, and are unemployed. So when we first wrote this initiative, the goal was to engage, re-engage them, get them on a path of opportunity, and do that initially through a GED access. But those of you who know me and know who I work for directly, Deputy City Manager Cynthia Barber, she said, Kimball, we've got to do more than just a GED. We've got to, and she coined the phrase, pick up the tempo. So let's look at other avenues for this program, how we can do other things, because if we just leave them with a GED, then more likely we'll still be stuck in a rut of only making a minimum wage salary. We must do this, give them post-secondary educational opportunities, technical college opportunities, so they can make a living wage. The research shows the numbers, and those numbers are increasing. I want you to envision very quickly your 9th grade year in high school. You have a vision? See some faces. Your 10th grade year. Vision and faces. Your 11th grade year. And by the time you're a senior in high school, and before you hear, you may now turn your tassel. Commissioner Williams-Cox, you knew this was coming because I'm a former principal. But something happened. There are people missing that are not turning their tassels. So every year we graduate students, there are some who do not graduate. So this program is trying to reduce as much as we can of those who still need that opportunity for further education. We use the term disconnected youth. That was the original term coined as the denotative meaning. They did a study, found out that they were disconnected and not re-engaged. Further study said opportunity should be what we're looking at. When you see a young person on the street not wearing the clothes the way you would wear your clothes, not using the language that you would use, don't look at them as a problem. Address them as an opportunity. What a novel idea. Our first initial goal, as City Manager Gold said, was let's try to engage 70 participants. Let's not try to overdo it and get them going. Within 17 months' time, we have over 400 participants in this program. By June 2020, at the rate we're going, and our rate outpaced the other 22 re-engagement cities on the National League of Cities website, which we are the only city in the state of Florida that's recognized for a re-engagement program on that website. We will have 1,000 participants in this program. You can't do this without collaboration. You can't do this without partnerships. We started with one local partner, Career Source, Capital Region. Today we have over 30 local partners. And the participants are active in these various areas because they move at their own pace, or should I say their own Tempo. Some get their GEDs quicker than others because that's an opportunity. Some go directly into a job. Some get their job and want to get their GED and do it at the same time. They go into apprenticeships. Employment opportunities are out there for them. They go into workforce training scholarships that we're working with Lively Technical College. But I said partnerships. I said collaboration. You can't do this kind of program without family. That picture shows you the support of family. We found one sister. The other sister got involved. The brother in the plaid shirt is getting involved. But it impacts that entire family from generation to generation. Now, let me ask you this. What would be a goal of recidivism in any system? Any incarceration system? Zero. Over half these participants have already had an offense before I found them randomly. But guess what? Not one have recommitted a crime, have been arrested, or have a violation of probation. And that is building relationships. I challenge any program across the country. Now, I check the booking report every single day, and I tell them that they cannot get in trouble in this program. And so far, every last one of them have kept their word. We partner with the state attorney's office. State Attorney Campbell loves this so much, he wants to do this concept. We're an educational overlay program for the Second Judicial Circuit. He wants to do that in every aspect of his circuit because of the impact of this program and the impression that it has had on them. You may look at those pictures of the interaction with those young people with our law enforcement, what we do with cops in the bond community. This is a relationship that we're building. We want to build that relationship that our law enforcement, our commission, our city management, our public are all here to support you. We said more than just public safety. I told you Deputy City Manager Barber challenged me on that. So now we're workforce training aspect. Look at the number of referrals we made to Career Source. We've got participants in Children and Family in the Fostering for Success program. People forget. Children age out of foster care at the age of 22. We're finding those as well. We have 6 participants. I'm so proud of this. We have partnership that's also interdepartmentally with the city, with our underground utilities. We have a pilot program. We have recently had 6 jobs. 5 of those 6 have been filled. 1 of the 6 were interviewed this week. But one of the young people that have the job, I want to tell you a story about him. He had never had a job in his life. He was living from family to friend. He had never interviewed in his life. Not only did he get through the application process, he got the interview, nailed the interview, and he is employed now with our underground and utilities department. And I want to thank Ms. Porter, Assistant City Manager Tedder, City Manager Gold, and all the leadership because they gave them hope. And that young man, not only is he employed now, he's going to soon earn his first paycheck ever in his life. And he said to me, he said, look, I'm going to call all my family and tell them I'm excited about this. I'm going to call all of his family. And in the conversation, it dawned on me. He said his brother, his sister, and I said to him, what about your mom and dad? He said, Dr. Thomas, both of my parents are deceased, but I hope they're proud of me. Well, Richard is with us tonight. Richard, wave your hand.
All right, Richard.
And Richard, I want to say to you, your parents tonight are very proud of you, and so am I, and all of us in this room. Give Richard a round of applause. Richard's presence here tonight. Richard's presence here tonight. He said, I want to come. He's shy. He won't speak. He said, I want to come, and my presence says, thank you. Thank you. Our other partnerships, as we talked about, this impact, Ajax Construction, disadvantaged workers, where we're going to be sending Tempo participants out to Lively Technical College to learn how to pour concrete, to learn HVAC, to learn plumbing. And Ajax loved this so much, they say, hey, look, we'll hire them. Get them skilled workers, and we'll have them. Our partners with Proof Brewery. You might remember Proof came, they opposed, and asked for some CRA dollars. They didn't get them. But Proof said to us they love this program so much that Byron and Angela Burrows said, we will still do a partnership with Tempo participants. And we're going to teach them about entrepreneurship and the chemical aspects and the chemistry of how to brew and beer. So this type of work, these type of partnerships, and I can tell you when Richard, I want to go back to him very quickly, he'll soon be working on some financial literacy in this program, so he will not have to return to 2650 Municipal Way. Education, first cohort group. There's my lovely picture. Every story there is, when we found them, some standing near King Food Store, some standing in laundromats, some on the steps of homes all day long doing absolutely nothing. And those first cohort group graduates with their GEDs, what a privilege it is. So we have new participants. We anticipate 50 to 30 more graduates in our cohort 2. We have partnerships with Florida State, Florida A&M, TCC, Lively Technical College. We're going to be doing the Ignite program with FAMU, the first time in college program. And this program has gotten some acknowledgments. Let's pause and look at one of those.
Video. We can.
The city of Tallahassee is now trying to find ways to help these young people steer clear of trouble with its Tempo program. Capital City correspondent Mariel Carmona spoke with the coordinator today. Mariel, it's always difficult when we have to share stories of young people in trouble.
It is, and so often when we hear about these crimes involving teens, we wonder, could this have been prevented, especially if they should have or could have been in school instead of out on the street. So this program, it looks at intervening before crime happens and set these young adults on the street path forward. 21 years old, no diploma, and working at this produce store.
I wanted to be more successful so I could get a better job.
That's what Cassandra Hayes met Dr. Kendall Thomas.
So he gave me the application, and first I threw away because I didn't believe him.
He kept at it, and now she has a GED and is working to attend licensed tech.
It feels like where to go, and I have more opportunities.
The Tempo program, life-changing.
I'll be checking on you again next week, okay?
Thomas, a city employee, walks the streets of low-income areas, recruiting disconnected youth, those ages 16 to 24, departing school but may be employed. Tempo helps them get a GED, enroll in college or training program, and get a job. But there is a caveat.
You can't get arrested, and you can't have any violations of probation, and every last one of us did to that script so far.
Stats show the so-called disconnected youth are the most likely to get involved in crime. We've seen it here from teens getting busted for car burglaries to a young man who got down over drugs last month. Do you think that this could be the real answer to the crime right now in the world?
Absolutely.
400 people have gone through Tempo in the last 16 months.
I was very confused today.
And the number is only increasing because it's working.
They don't commit crime once they start the program, and I think it's something that we have with them that they have to be accountable.
They have nothing to lose. They can get the education for free and have all the support they need. Why not do it?
And right now, this program is totally mobile. The Thomas hopes that within the next year that he can get a center that they can meet at and actually have a place to call out, as well as hire some case managers that can help coordinate with those involved in the program so that it can continue to grow. He's reporting live from the governor's fund, Mariel Carmona, WCTV, Unanimously.
Okay, I love the persistence, right? She said she threw the first one away until she realized, oh, this is for real.
Dr. Thomas getting the job done honestly. I'll close with my last slide. If you'll forward it to it, because you have to see this picture. I want you to look into his eyes. When you look into his eyes, I don't know what you see, but what I see is hope, excitement, dreaming of future. His sister went through this program. We gave him something to be happy about. I want him to know that this is not just another city program, but the way that we do business. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas, you're doing an amazing job. Do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not, Mayor.
This is an information item only. I think we are all, well, let me just say from my perspective, I'm a true believer in the program. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I think your results, how you measure your results, are fantastic, and I think you're setting an example not only across the state of Florida, but in the southeast United States and across the nation. Keep up the great work. Any other comments, Mr. Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've known Dr. Thomas for years and had the opportunity to work with him at what was then East Gadsden High School. He was principal there, and his passion for working with those young people and being an example and role model for them shined through even then. And as you have heard from his presentation, that passion still exists today. I think it's even more so now because he's embraced this project the way that he has, and I want to thank him because he and Mr. Vance and I, who works with the Ready for Work program, meet regularly in my role as an employee at Lively Technical College, and we coordinate, and they have been a tremendous referral source to our programs there at Lively. The young lady that was featured in the news report is one that he introduced me to at a wellness fair that same day, and we're hoping to get her enrolled at Lively. And so, Dr. Thomas, thank you for the work that you do. It has definitely made a difference in our community.
Commissioner Mello.
Well, yeah, thank you, Dr. Thomas. I think the work you do is exceptional. I don't know where we are on the future of Tempo, but I just we need to figure out how to scale what you're doing as large as we can, and then you can't carry the weight all on your own. So make sure when we get into strategic planning and that sort of thing, we're looking at how we scale this because we have issues, and I think we found something that works, and we need to get behind it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams-Cox.
I want to also say thank you, Dr. Kimball. We also go way back. He was my oldest son, who is my age, high school principal at Rickards High School. And so I want to believe that Rickards prepared you for this job and that you are doing an outstanding job. And the interesting thing is that if you notice, Dr. Kimball is very comfortable on the streets talking to these individuals. And people they understand that. They know that he's not afraid of them. And we just got to understand people are people. Right. And there are reasons why they do what they do and why they act the way they act. And we appreciate you taking the time to be persistent, show you care, because people don't care how much you know until they know you care. And they know that you care. That's why the word is on the street now. That's why 400 kids, 440, not all just kids, are in this program. And if you can do 444 by yourself, imagine what we could do if we gave you a small army. That we could really wage a real war on poverty and make the quality of life better, which will help us with our public safety. So thank you for what you do. I applaud you, and we're ready to help do whatever we can to keep this momentum going. We want to pick up the tempo.
I just have to say one word, just one word. Awesome job.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
We're going to get you some help.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, colleagues, we have 8 more items left. It is 7:20. I am going to push us, and I'm going to ask the city manager to introduce item number 1305.
Thank you, sir. This item involves a pilot program that was previously authorized by the City Commission in 2017 for the loan for the replacement of failing water pipes in private homes. It was an extension of our energy loan program, which is top in the nation. It truly is best in class, rarely done by utilities. We were able to extend it. We had some experience where customers needed the help to replace the pipes in their homes. We piloted it. It was taken advantage of by a few, but in those cases it was very helpful. We're at the conclusion of that pilot, and we're recommending your approval of that. I'd like to just acknowledge the good work of James Barnes and his team on this and ask for your approval to make this a permanent program.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Excellent.
Move to approve.
It's been probably moved by Commissioner Matlow, seconded by the Mayor Pro-Tem. Seeing no further comment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. Item number 13.07.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, 06.
1306. Normally the plats are placed on the consent agenda. This particular plat involves the very first platting of our inclusionary housing. It's the very first test of this ordinance that addresses affordable housing. It's in the Canopy development. on the east side of town, so I wanted to bring it to your attention and ask for your approval for the Canopy Unit 3 Phases 1 and 7 plat.
Wonderful. Do we have any public comment, Mr. Clerk?
We do have one speaker on this item, Stephen Martin.
Mr. Martin, good to see you. Please come forward. 3 minutes. Your name and address for the record, please.
Stephen Martin, 2625 Stonegate Drive. As I said before, I've been following this development now since I learned of it 10 years ago, which unfortunately was some 20 years after it was started. Earlier tonight, I saw Commissioner...
Mr. Martin, we can't hear you, sir.
Sorry. Yeah. Stephen Martin, 2625 Stonegate Drive. All right, I followed this for 10 years, paid a lot of attention to it. Unfortunately, it started 30 years ago. Earlier tonight, I saw Commissioner Lightsey in here, who was very much involved with this. Without her, I don't think this development would have gone through. Commissioner Lightsey told me I needed to take some medicine. If Commissioner Lightsey's still here, I invite her, come up here and defend this development. It's been about 2.5 hours since I spoke. I was asked by other people who live in neighborhoods off Centerville Road to come in and express my opposition to this. So because of that, I decided I'll stick around and speak for their behalf. But this development, as I said before, has quite a record for it. And I would like the developer who's in here to say why they haven't gone through with this mitigation that they agreed to for the canopy that they excessively removed from the canopy protection zone. Why, according to Ms. Mormon with the Citizens Canopy Road Committee, they have done basically nothing with that. They came to our neighborhood in 2016, and they made that agreement with the Canopy Road Committee December of 2017. So we're talking a year and 4 months ago. They haven't done much of anything yet. A year before that, in 2016, before they did much of the development, a person from that development came to our neighborhood association because we were concerned after they had clear-cut along Fleischman, and we were promised that we weren't going to notice anything along Centerville Road. Well, they promised us something that they haven't lived up to. They promised the Canopy Road Committee something they haven't lived up to. So before I would allow them to go and do anything else, I would ask them to explain why they haven't lived up to what they said already. And as I said earlier, before you give them permit to go out and destroy other land, ask them to clean up the land that they've already destroyed. I invite anybody to drive out there and tell me that what that development has done to that land has helped that land and enriched the quality of life of people in that area. I invite them, and I've said before, you can go to Woodhaven, where there's been issues with the same developer, and there's respiratory problems out there people are having from a mound of cement debris that he built. Last month I was told that when he was being questioned about this by a local media source, he hung the phone up on them. So that's what I was told. And so that issue's been around. This developer has scarred so much land in this county. Rather than rubber stamp these, as you said, this would have been done if it weren't for inclusionary housing. It's time to put this developer on the stand and ask him, burden of proof, why should we give you a permit to go out and do to other land something like you've done to this land and haven't been able to live up to what you promised? And you want to be a different commission. Well, this is your chance. One of you was on the Planning Commission. I was in front of the Planning Commission. Never once did I see you stand up to this developer. Never once. This is your opportunity tonight to take a stand for the canopy.
Excuse me,
your
for
first
3 minutes.
night on this meeting and this commission, you made an insinuation that before anybody cuts down a tree, they ought to be, let's put the burden of proof. Let's see if you're willing to stick to that, because I'll be surprised after what I saw on the Planning Commission from you. All right, thank you for letting me.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Do we have any other public speakers on this issue?
That was the only speaker on this item.
Mr. Manager, are there any outstanding compliance issues on this issue that would prevent us from moving forward?
No, sir, none that I'm
Are
aware
there
of.
any mitigating issues that need to be addressed before moving forward?
No, sir, not regarding these plants that I'm aware of.
I am looking at Commissioner comment.
Just very quickly,
Mayor Pro Tem?
Mr. Manager, I want to commend the developer actually for including the inclusionary housing. In the past, when we've had developments that reached the threshold where inclusionary housing was required, they chose to buy themselves out, and so the developer, the Gazvini family, Tom Asbury, they have shown that they would be the example for how we can develop this community going forward by including this inclusionary housing. And so, Steve, thank you all for being the example in that regard.
Motion for staff recommendations been made by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Williams-Cox. Any further comment? Seeing none, I also share the same sentiment of the Mayor Pro Tem as well. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes 5-0. Moving on, item number 13.07.
Thank you. This item involves the financial support for the Kearney Center. The commission previously approved a 5-year commitment, $500,000 spread over 5 years and $100,000 each year. We're seeking your authorization of $100,000 from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for the last of those 5 years installments. That's this year. We're also asking you to authorize a commitment of $500,000 to the Kearney Center to be distributed $100,000 per year for the next 5 years. I'd like to make a clarification in the recommended option number 2. It reads, authorize a commitment of $500,000 to support the operations of the Kearney Center to be distributed in annual $100,000 allocations from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund beginning fiscal year 2019 and 20. I'd like to strike the word support the operations of, so it reads $500,000 to the Kearney Center to provide some flexibility and not to add any confusion to the subject. It does not materially change our recommendation.
Question on the recommendation amendment, though. If you strike the words to support the operations of, what other options does that leave?
To support debt.
Aha. That changes the substance of the staff recommendation in my mind. But let's go ahead and first and foremost here, do we have any public comment?
We do have one speaker, Bill Wilson.
Okay. Mr. Wilson, good to see you, sir.
Good evenings. Bill Wilson, 1816 Old Ford Drive. I want to support the recommendation that you fund the Kearney Center at the $100,000 a year and consider your 5-year commitment. Monique's here, and I'm married to a redhead. You don't want to get redheads mad at you. But I do have concern about your funding source. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund was created to develop affordable housing. And we're not talking about affordable housing. We're talking about providing support for the operation of the center. And that fund is a fund with no revenue source. Your advisory committee a year and a half ago recommended that you look at a dedicated source of revenue for affordable housing. We're a year and a half later, and we've done nothing with that. We're talking about a good chunk of money over the next year coming out of that fund with no way to replace it. And with the shortage of affordable housing we have, not sure that's a good policy decision. You're paying a lobbyist to go to the legislature, and you're part of the Sadowski coalition, arguing that the state should not sweep the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to do things other than build housing. And now you're coming back and doing just exactly opposite of what you're suggesting the state shouldn't do. So I think you should fund the Kearney Center. I don't think this is the right funding source of where you ought to get the money.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
No, sir.
All right. Commissioners, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, thoughts, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Bill's comments are spot on. We were at a luncheon today where our female elected officials were being recognized at was it Women's Wednesday? Yeah, and the issue of support for the homeless in the community came up, and it was certainly indicated that the city and county are providing resources for the homeless in our community, and it's a growing need, as we all know. But the flip side of that, there was a young lady who was a young professional or maybe a student, and she asked the question, are we bringing those high-tech, high-wage jobs to the community so that we can afford to live here in terms of housing? Because she said housing is becoming unaffordable in the city of Tallahassee. And I was in the legislature when You know, our leadership at the time did sweep funds from the Sadowski Fund, which was started during the Childs administration, and we argued against it, and it continued to happen. And as Bill mentioned, you know, we say we didn't want that to happen because we knew we needed that affordable housing, and yet here we are locally going along the same path. I wholeheartedly support the Kearney Center and want us to be able to provide the $500,000, but like Bill, I think it's just the wrong funding source given the need that we have in this community for affordable housing, and that's where that money should be spent.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams-Cox.
I do notice that in the background information, this did not just start. So this has been a pattern. And I think to pull the rug from under the Kearney Center like that with this today would be unfair to them. I would like for us to consider at least doing a 1 year while we identify other ways to provide this funding in our next budget cycle so that we can continue to support them, but find another way to do it other than the affordable housing piece. So basically what this recommendation is a continuation of what has previously been done. And tonight we need to send a message to the Kearney Center that we do support you, but we would need to look at potentially how we can commit to another long-term agreement with a different funding source. But for this year, I think we should move forward with the $100,000 just to give them some cheer them up for this year.
Excellent. I got a question. How much is the Kearney Center in debt?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have that information. I can get that from the commission, but I don't know that off the top of my head.
All right, I'm going to take a firm position here. I can move forward with a $100,000 commitment.
Yeah.
I cannot move forward with option number 2. By changing the language of the recommendation for option number 2 to cover debt is a substantive change on what's going on. I need to know how much we're in debt, where did the debt come from, how did we get to where we are before I tie up and make a 5-year commitment moving forward, and we need to discuss where the money's going to come from as well. I am the only commissioner that was around when the Kearney Center was built. The original commitment between the city and the county was for brick and mortar. We were promised, you remember this, we were told that the Kearney Center would raise their operational funds through nonprofits, correct? And then they came back. Said, no, actually, now we need some help, assistance with operational. And now they're coming back for debt. And that is very concerning to me. So I will move forward with option number 1. I could do that. I think there needs to be a longer conversation during our budget workshop about this. I'm not saying I'm not going to be there. I'm just saying I'm not comfortable doing it tonight. Does that make sense? So I'll entertain a motion for option number 1 because I think that we've got the majority that's on board with that, and then we can see where a conversation for option number 2 goes from there.
Well, option number 1 has an and, which is a connector. So are we saying that you want to disconnect option 1 and 2 and just have one stand on its own merit?
Yeah, I would be willing to support a $100,000 commitment right now for the Kearney Center, but I'm not going to support option number 2 this evening. So there's a motion for option number 1, which is a $100,000 allocation to the continuing services of the Kearney Center for right now. We're in commission discussion right now. Okay. So we'll go with option number 1. That's the motion on the table. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, properly seconded. Discussion on the motion on the table. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Sorry, discussion.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give you an opportunity to speak. You look like you had a comment on what we were talking about.
We're going to take the vote first on option number 1, and then we'll hear from Monday from the center, because I think that the comments will be, we're in favor of the funding for right now. So the motion on the table is for option number 1. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously 5-0. Please.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. The point of clarity that I wanted to make was that
Name and address for the record.
I'm sorry, Monique Ellsworth, 2650 Municipal Way. The point of clarity that was evident by what you were saying, Mayor, was that the wording did mention operations, and that's not what we wanted funding for. It was to continue debt reduction. So it's a continuation of the funds that were initially brought forward and approved on 5 years ago. It's a continuation of that. So it's pass-through money that wouldn't touch our bank account, but simply goes to Hancock Bank to further reduce the debt for the original build of the center. So it's a continuation of the same funds for the same way it's been used, not to impact our operational cost. That's why we struck that, was that we thought that that wording, the semantics there would be confusing. It's simply to continue what has historically been done. I just wanted to provide that clarity.
Appreciate that. At this time, I'm not interested in paying debt service as a motion for this evening. I think it's a bigger conversation that needs to take place during the budget cycle after identifying the appropriate funding source for that. So I open it up for discussion. Yes, sir. Commissioner Matlow.
I just want to go back to Bill Wilson's point for a minute, and I'll admit that there's a lot of things I don't know. So if we could get an update on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, how we're using that money, what our options are, what we're actually building with that type of money, and look at other funding sources. I do want to say I think the $100,000 clears the initial hurdle for the Kearney Center. I'm in full support of supporting our homeless population. We're not going to do that tonight, it seems, and I think the budget conversation is the proper time to talk about it, so we'll move forward with that.
Well, we are. I mean, we're dedicating $100,000 tonight, and then we'll carry on the conversation later. All right, moving on to item number 13.08, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item involves the expansion of advanced life support services by the Tallahassee Fire Department.
Man, you're bringing in the Top Guns here. Look at this.
Look
at the swagger as they walk up. You're good at the swagger.
We're fortunate to have the leadership of the Tallahassee Fire Department with us tonight. Over a number of years, we have advanced the level of care that we provide through the fire department to assist in emergency medical services to our community. So oftentimes you will see the fire department respond to an emergency. They will be complimentary, let's say to a traffic accident for example, oftentimes arriving first. When they arrive, they provide life-saving support. Out of 5 of our stations, they provide advanced life support services, which is paramedic-like services. Very helpful to do that early in an emergency and provide that care to our public. Out of the other 11 stations, 10 really, excluding the airport, we offer basic life support services. The fire department is proposing to extend the number of stations by which we provide ALS by 4 over the next couple of years. We would do it from existing budgets and seeking grant funds. Today we provide ALS again through 5 stations, which covers about 56% of our community. By adding simply 4 more stations over the next couple of years, we could provide these services to about 80% of our entire community. This has to be enabled by the Florida Department of Health Emergency Medical Services Advisory Council. They have taken that action to allow us to expand, and we are seeking your authorization tonight to do so. I'd like to thank Chief Gaines and Chief Haddon and the entire team of TFD for their forward thinking on this. I'd like to thank our union president, Byron Meadows, for his support. We always have good conversations about this. I appreciate him being here tonight, and we're looking forward to your approval of this recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We have no comment on this item.
Chief, thank you very much. Thank you all very much for the fine job you do. Any comment? Is there a motion on the table?
Move to accept staff recommendation.
Staff recommendation has been properly moved by Commissioner Williams-Cox, seconded by Commissioner Bryant. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are on a brief job fair report, 13.09. This is information only item. Anything in addition to what has been provided, Mr. City Manager?
No, sir. We just want to take the opportunity to highlight the success of the job fair last week. More than 300 candidates came by to our Smith-Williams Center seeking 101 positions. We had such good luck with that. We wanted to put it in your agenda material tonight and highlight that success for you. And we're just asking you that you accept staff's report on this matter.
Any public comment? Mr.
No, sir.
Great.
Move acceptance.
Second.
Staff's report's been properly moved by Commissioner Williams-Cox, seconded by Commissioner Matlow. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. Item number 13.10.
This item seeks your authorization to continue the contract for the city's technology and innovation annual Oracle database maintenance agreement with Mythix. Mythix is an authorized vendor to do this work. The agreement provides for technical support and security upgrades for the Oracle systems. Our Director of Technology and Innovations here, Jonathan Kilpatrick, to answer any questions you may have on this.
Do we have any public comment, Mr. Clerk?
We have no public comment on this item.
Excellent.
Move acceptance.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Williams-Cox, seconded by Commissioner Bryant. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 13.11, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item seeks your authorization to negotiate and execute a managed services contract for the city's PeopleSoft human resources and financial management systems with High Street Solutions, the highest ranked proposer. The managed services contract provides for a cloud-hosted environment and third-party application support, maintenance, and development assistance. There were some questions regarding this item that we shared responses via email earlier today. If you would like, our director is here. He can provide more background, or we're happy to answer your questions.
I would love more background on the discrepancy between the bids that came in.
Mr. Kilpatrick, will you share more background on this matter?
It's great to see you, Mr. Patrick. Thank you.
And Mayor, you do have one speaker on this item when you're ready.
Will do.
Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, appointed officials, I'll give you just a really quick background. We currently have our...
Can you please speak into the mic?
I'm sorry. We currently have our PeopleSoft HRMS and FMS, our Human Resources and Financial Management System, in a cloud environment that is managed by a third party. We have that managed services agreement, which expired or is expiring. We put out an RFP that was issued through BidSync across the state or nation for responses. We got 5 proposals. Those proposals were reviewed and evaluated by city policy on technical capabilities as well as price. The way we do our technology solutions is we review technical solutions first without looking at price in any way, and rank the proposals based on technical merit and technical capabilities. In that case, High Street was a very high number 1 candidate. When price was reviewed, the proposer that is now our number 2 vendor had an abnormally low price, an outlier. All 4 of the other proposals were grouped very close together. The vendor that is number 2 had an incredibly low price, and they were a distant 4th in technical merit. My opinion is they would not give us the service that we need for our services. Based on technical merit and price consideration, High Street Solutions was our number 1 vendor, and the recommendation that we bring to you.
Excellent.
If there's other questions.
Commissioner Williams, before we get into questions, actually, do you mind if we go ahead and hear from the speaker, and then Commissioner Williams-Cox, I'll come right back to you, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, so how many public speakers?
One at this time, Barney Bishop, and that's the only speaker I have unless someone else indicates an interest in speaking.
Mr. Bishop, good to see you. Name and address for the record,
Yes.
please.
Good afternoon. Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor. My name is Barney Bishop. I live at 2215 Thomasville Road. I'm here tonight representing Citizens for Responsible Spending. It's a grassroots group that was established in 2015 to act as a guardian for our tax dollars and about ethical behavior at City Hall. Most of you probably know that I'm a lobbyist, but I want to make it crystal clear at the very beginning, I don't represent any of these companies. I've never heard of any of these companies. I've never worked for any of these companies in the past, and I can assure you I'm never going to work for any of the companies in the future because I don't have the background to do IT lobbying. This issue came to my attention because of a well-intentioned citizen that provided me some information. I only got it last Thursday. The scoring process that I want to talk to you about for a moment is fishy. And the reason is that in the 40 years that I've been lobbying and doing business before state government and local government, I've never seen 5 independent scores each rank every one of the vendors. Every one of them ranked the number one. Everybody ranked number 2. Everybody that ranked number 3 ranked number 3. You get my message? That just don't happen. I'm concerned on behalf of the citizens of the city about the lack of appropriate information that was provided. It was not complete information. And you were given a scoring synopsis, but you weren't given a cost synopsis. And even tonight, your information technology director still hasn't told you about the cost difference. This procurement decision is being brought to you 4 days before the end of the contract. So your back is against the wall. You've only been given a partial information, I believe, for a reason. Staff wants you to pick the person that they've ranked number 1. And remember that everybody ranked everybody 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The statistical chance of that happening is astronomical. When a public records request was made for the scoring sheets, the city didn't give the people that requested the information the individual scoring sheets. They gave them a sanitized, typed up report of all the scores. Commissioners, that is not a scoring sheet. A scoring sheet has handwriting on it. People either do it in pencil or they do it in pen. The citizens of this city are entitled to see the original scoring sheets, not something that was typed up by staff. They're entitled to see the original scoring sheets. And when they were asked, they were not given it to them. The second part of the procurement is about cost. You know from your agenda item that there's a budget for $2.74 million. And the winning bid is for, guess what, $2.74 million. But what did the second place vendor bid? $750,000. Now your staff wants you to believe that somehow that's an unreasonable number. That a company that has been working for you and me for the last 4 years is making a number up that they can't live with. Now, I would just ask you from common sense, why would a company do that? Why would they purposely go below what their cost would be in doing this contract?
Mr. Bishop, if you could wrap it up, that'd be great, sir.
Let me tell you what staff is going to tell you. They're going to tell you that this company, that's the second place vendor, was in bankruptcy. That's a prejudicial comment. It's got nothing to do. You know why? Because the city had a 3-year contract with the number 2 vendor and extended it after they had the bankruptcy. So the bankruptcy is got nothing to do with anything. So then there's going to be the excuse that they tell you that the presentation and materials were better than everybody else. And I could just tell you, look at the scoring sheets. You're going to see that it's not possible that everybody ranked everybody just the way that it is. So I've got 4 recommendations, and I'll wrap up, Mr. Mayor.
Please, Mr. Bishop.
Please award the bid to the lowest bidder. The price difference between number 1 and number 2 is 22 hundredths of a point. The cost difference is $1.95 million. You take the number 1 bid, you're going to spend $2.75 million. You ask enough questions, you could get this bid by the current vendor.
Mr. Bishop, your recommendations, please, sir.
If not, please extend the contract for 120 days so that you can ask the kinds of questions that I'm asking that should be answered. I would suggest that you require all future procurements come to you at least 60 days before so you're not doing something at the last minute. And I would also suggest that you ask in the future that not only the scoring synopsis, but the cost synopsis be given to you so that you know what the real cost is going to be. Be glad to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Thank you. No question. Thank you. Comment? No.
My question is to the IT director. Can you address
those issues that Mr. Bishop just raised?
Absolutely. We do currently have a contract with the number 2 vendor. It has been problematic from day one. And I can give you very specific issues if you would like. I don't know that a public forum like this is the best place to talk about one of our companies. No. However, it has been problematic from day one. We have had issues going back to the very beginning of the contract. As a matter of fact, they were removed from 2 other contracts, and we renegotiated or reworked their contract to hold a retainer because of their lack of performance in the first contract. Mr. Bishop is absolutely correct. The contract is up March 31st. However, I have already requested a 6-month extension because we do need a transition period from our current vendor to our new vendor. I've requested a 6-month extension in order to get that done. It's more of a knowledge transfer in how the systems are how the architecture of the system is put together in order to get that knowledge transfer to the new vendor, High Street Solutions. Did that answer your question, ma'am?
It did. Can you also provide the other costs for the other vendors? Because what Mr. Bishop has said is that the lowest bidder was, and you said it as well, was the number 2, but the others were more in line, and this one was just like a low bid thrown in?
Or I had it right here with me. Tim, do you have? We do, and let me introduce Tim Davis. He's the manager of our project management office, and he's got the specific numbers.
Commissioner Cox, let me go ahead and give you those numbers to you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. For the numbers, the other vendors were 1.3, 2.6 million, 2.7 million, and 3.2 million.
Can you give me the names?
The names. 1.3 ERP analyst, 2.6 Castech, I'm sorry. 2.7 High Street Solutions, 3.2 Cherry Road.
Thank you.
Commissioner Matlow.
I have a quick question. Were the problems with the current provider since the beginning, and if they were, what was the 2017 extension authorized instead of rebidding at that time?
It was the extension and to extend the contract was to give us time to get the RFP done, and because of some hurdles we ran into in 2018, we didn't get it done as quickly as we had hoped. And I'll take the blame for that.
Okay. And are the issues that we haven't elaborated on, but you haven't have those been consistent since HTC Global purchased the company?
Yes. As a matter of fact, during the job fair, our HRMS system was down. We could not get the responsiveness from the company during that process to get it back up.
Okay. And what has been our historical cost for this type of service?
Currently, we are paying in the neighborhood of $24,000 a month.
Okay. And before a contract with this company, do you remember what the ballpark was?
Before this company, we did it in-house.
Okay.
On our own servers with our own staff.
Okay. So this is where I'm at. We just spent a lot of time talking about $100,000 feasibility studies, and that's a lot of money, and $2 million is a whole lot of money. And we have some information. I understand the rankings and skills and talents and the difference between some are better than others, and you don't always want to go with the cheapest price. But it seems like we're in somewhat of a unique position in that this is our current provider. This isn't a company that's just coming in and we're like, well, he's just trying to lowball it just to get the gig. So they have some sort of experience, but I don't think we've been given enough information, and I don't want to do it here to see what was problematic and see if it's $2 million problematic or not, because I'm just not comfortable making a decision without more information. And I agree that what piqued my interest of it was just the ranking and 5 points versus 20 points, and I think it would be beneficial for the public to have access to more information on the agenda item without so much effort. So I don't want to get rid of this, but if we could kick it just to the next meeting and get a little more information on what may have been problematic to make an informed decision on before we spend $2 million.
Commissioner Matlow, would you be willing to entertain, give the opportunity to negotiate the additional 6 months anyway, or 2 months, or 3 months?
Okay.
My only concern is in 4 days, contract's up.
Right.
So,
has that not been? I'm sorry, maybe I misheard that. Have we not got the 6 month extension currently?
We have asked for the 6 months extension, and there is no reason to believe that they will not extend.
Okay. Yeah, I would want to continue with that, get the 6 month extension.
They have indicated that they will, but we do not have it signed.
Okay. Yeah, I would just like one additional meeting time to get the facts.
sounds great. I'll second your motion. Any other comment? Staff clear on the motion on the table? Excellent. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we are on item number 13.12.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item seeks your acceptance of the CRA's fiscal year 2018 annual report. This report is required by state law of all CRAs around the state and due by the end of this month. Roxanne Manning, our CRA director, is here to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners, I know that we're running late and you're in a hurry, but I'd like to leave you with just one very quick set of numbers. As you know, the CRA is about planning for the future and future revenue for the city and the county and other taxing entities. In the annual report, it's 40 pages long. We'll put it online tomorrow so everybody can read it. There's a lot of detail in there, but probably one of the most salient details to give you an illustration of what an economic development engine a CRA can be. This year we committed money to 3 projects, 3 major projects, and it's a total of $24 million, or $25 million. That'll be paid out over 12 years from the tax revenue that's generated by those projects. But sometime within the early part of those 12 years, it will add $250 million to the property tax base in our downtown district. It'll also generate well over 200 new jobs that range from management to lower level jobs. So we're really happy about that. We're very excited, and that is 1 year's work. And I'll answer any questions you may have.
Wonderful.
Move acceptance of the report, Mr. Mayor.
First question, do we have any public testimony on this?
No, sir.
Excellent. Motion has been properly made by the Mayor Pro-Tem, seconded by Commissioner Matlow. Commissioner Bryant.
Yes, I just have, it is an extensive report, and I think I received it today. And I think you're asking us to vote on your annual report. Is that?
It's statutory. It's a process. It's basically you just accept it because it kind of is what it is. It's just a record of what we did this year, but we're required by statute to submit it to the governing body of the municipality.
Just a comment on that, it's more in the nature of a filing requirement, and there's nowhere else for the CRA to file.
Right.
And so it's more like a filing of the document.
Oh, okay.
Proper motion on the table, and it's been properly seconded as well. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. That concludes our policy formation and direction. We go back to unagenda business speakers. Is there anybody from the public that is here that would like to speak on an unagenda item? Mr. Clerk.
Mayor, I have 2 speaker forms, one for David Ferguson.
Mr. Ferguson, good to see you, sir.
Followed by Bossman Jackson, if he is still around.
I don't think he's still here.
It's been a long evening. Mayor, Councilman, I appreciate the opportunity to be here before you. I'm here to kind of alert you to
the concerns of Killearn Estates about the traffic patterns that are going to develop in the development of Walini Plantation. I'm president of the Homeowners Association, represent about 5,000 acres and 3,800 homes. So we speak with a voice. Mayor, if you wouldn't mind, I have a map. I think if I can give a copy of a short map, you could follow my presentation a little bit better.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, our association has gone on record as opposing this particular road plan. I think you all have a letter from the board stating this matter. I want to thank Commissioner Williams-Cox. She took it on herself to come out and visit with us and really see the situation that we're going to face in Killearn. If I can address you to the map a little bit, if you notice the blue line, that's Walini Boulevard coming. You can see right down the bottom where it comes into Fleshman Road. It's going to circle around across Interstate 10. Apparently building a bridge on Interstate 10 there. Maybe it'd be an intersection later, I don't know. But it comes up, and you see it take a sharp left and ends right into Shamrock Street South. That means that, as we understand it, Walini Plantation is going to be about 7,000 acres, probably have a 9,000 to 12,000 homes in it. You estimate 2 cars per home. That's 18 to 20-some thousand cars that are going to have to hit the road. And a number of those are going to be dumped right on Shamrock South in Killearn Estates, which will devastate Killearn Estates. If you're familiar with getting out of Killearn now on the Thomasville Road, it takes at least 2 stoplights in the morning. If you dump that number of traffic into Shamrock, God only knows how long it's going to take to get out. Now, our recommendation, as we talked, and I must admit, Autumn, I see you, Autumn, you left for a minute. Autumn is in charge of the project, and she has been very helpful. She's met with us. We went to the PDE session. She came to our board meeting answering questions. She's going to help us with a town hall meeting in Killearn. But we want the commission to understand what's going to happen here with all this traffic. If this extension right here is approved, it's going to devastate Killearn. The quality of life will go down as it goes through Shamrock. The pricing of houses will go down. For your information, Killearn Homeowners Association has employed off-duty policemen at our own expense at 3 months intervals to come in and check speeding and traffic concerns in Killearn Estates. Now, if this comes, I don't know whether we can afford to hire enough policemen for enough time to do that, okay? I would just ask you to be alert to this and use your influence and whatever influence you have to say, instead of turning left to go into Shamrock, go to the original concept, as I understand, to go all the way up to Roberts Road, connect with Roberts Road, use that and Bradfordville Road out to collect Thomasville Road. If you go through if you go through Killearn, it's just hard to imagine that much traffic trying to go through a community. Killearn is 50 years old. It is Tallahassee's first planned community, totally planned community. And Mayor, you're certainly familiar with Killearn, I know.
My family's lived there for 46 years.
Exactly. So you know exactly what we're talking about with Shamrock, the kind of traffic that goes. I mean, it's going to affect the quality of life. It's going to affect the quality of the homes, the price of the homes. People will not want to buy with all this traffic coming through. We have beautiful.
Excuse me, you're 3 minutes.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Just wrap it up.
I just hope that all I can say in ending up is, please help us. Do not devastate Killearn Estates by dumping this traffic into Killearn to handle the traffic problems of the development of Walini Plantation. I look forward to answer any questions you may have. I appreciate Autumn working with us. She can do it. Hopefully we can persuade her to change to go to Roberts Road instead of Shamrock. But if you could help us, we appreciate that also. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a speaker form for Steve Stewart, I assume, on this topic.
Yeah. Mr. Stewart's on unagended items. 3 minutes, name and address of the record, please.
Steve Stewart, 3048 Waterford Drive in Clarence Estates. Just drove by, saw you guys were still going on, so I thought I would come in and share some things.
Prolong the meeting.
Yeah. Hey, I'll be quick, but you don't get to the Northeast very often, so I wanted to share some Northeast issues. Couple of things. First of all, I think I've talked to some of you about, if you look at a map of the city of Tallahassee, you see the city of Tallahassee's jurisdiction goes all the way up to Bannerman Crossings. But if you look at where they have gymnasiums for city park and recreations, the closest gym up here is Lafayette Park. Okay, and so obviously from personal experience of having kids signed up for city sports, I've had to travel around the city, which has been great because I've got to go to some really nice gyms, but we don't have any up here. And so I think that would be something that you might want to consider, especially given the tax money that comes from here and the number of kids that live up here. Second thing, again, sort of focused on kids, is the soccer, Meadowood Soccer Complex. We really need to, update that. I have kids that play soccer. You go out there on a Saturday, there's 500 to 1,000 kids out there. Yeah. It's dirt. The traffic area, getting out of there is a pain. We've traveled to Thomasville and Dothan for soccer tournaments, have paved, have places for RVs, for parents that are traveling. And when it rains, I mean, they have to go in and fill dirt in so the cars can move back there. So I think that would be a second issue. And the third issue is right here in sort of the Market District area. This is one of the sense of place areas I think that we have. But really not a lot has been done here. We've put up some signs, and it's been going on since 2011, I think, when we talked about the Market District. And now we filled in a retention pond where we're going to build something, I think, in about 2 or 3 years, sort of a walking park. But now they filled it in a year or so ago, and there's weeds growing. It looks like it's an abandoned lot. And I know that we've got a shopping center here that's going to hopefully, regain some momentum here in the next year or so. But take a look at that. I don't know why we have to wait 2 or 3 years here in the Market District to get sort of, I think it's going to be a walking park with some parking for the businesses around there. But those would be some of the issues. I think obviously the Northeast Gateway is a big issue, which the Blueprint team has done a good job of saying that there's going to be a lot of input on that issue moving forward in terms of the analysis, and so we'll have enough time to talk about that. But those are some of the issues I just wanted you to be aware of, and I appreciate you guys coming to the northeast part of town, and I would urge you to do it more often, maybe twice a year. But also, I had a problem. People were calling me asking me what time they could come speak. And if you were an unagended speaker and you just had an issue that you wanted to talk about, you really didn't have a time that you could give out for people to come. And I guess unagended speakers just started when? A couple minutes ago?
Correct.
Yeah, so I mean, it would be better if you're going to an area to be able to give people a time that they could come talk about unagended things.
Well, that determines on how long the meeting goes. We do the best we can.
No, I understand.
Usually we post it right after the public hearing, but tonight we did not finish basically the general business. We had to go back and do that before doing we're doing the best we can still.
I understand. Well, I think the county does unagended at the beginning so that people have a set time that you can come speak.
We have a chance for people to speak at the beginning of the meeting as well. And they can also speak on the agenda item when it comes up as well. We have 3 opportunities, beginning and on the agenda item.
Mayor? Steve, you raised great points. Now, I'm a subscriber to the Tallahassee Reports. I would be looking for an article explaining what the mayor just said about how citizens can come and engage before the meeting, at the top of the meeting, on the agenda item, and for the unagended items. And as he said, we try to get through it as best we can. So we need some good news about the city commission in the Tallahassee Report. And if you keep doing that, then I will be able to convince folks to keep coming up here. Deal?
Right, I think, but I'm just, again, on this issue, because I think this is, I've publicized this on the radio show that I have, but when you ask people when they want to come and talk and engage with you, and you say, what time am I supposed to be there? You can't tell them.
4 p.m.
No, can you unagended speakers speak at 4 p.m.? No, sir. No. See, that's the point I'm trying to make.
We have an opportunity to speak at the beginning of the meeting on agenda items if they cannot make it for the actual agenda item itself.
Right.
Obviously, if they're here during the item, they have the chance to speak. And then at the end of the meeting, we have as much time as the public would like to speak on unagenda items. And you are correct. I cannot give you a specific time, but we will be here until the meeting's over.
Right. I appreciate it. Again, I appreciate y'all coming out here and listening to the issues that we have, right?
Thanks
a lot.
Thank
Mr. Mayor,
you, thank you.
One thing we might add for specificity on that, on meetings where we do have public hearings, we know that unagended speakers will be after 6 p.m.
That is true. That is true. Steve, you get that? Okay. All right. Do we have any other public speakers?
We do not.
Excellent. For the good of the order, we'll just start at the end. Dr. Bryant, work our way back. Do you have anything for the commission this evening?
Great meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you to Gilchrist Elementary and the principal and staff for opening your doors to allow us to come in. I feel welcome, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I also wanted to put in a plug for Tallahassee Future Leaders Academy. That this is a program that we need to make sure that our citizens know about, and we'll get. We need partners. Steve, where's Steve? We need partners for the Tallahassee Future Leaders Academy. Please get information on how you can do that, and so that we can keep our youth involved in the, over the summer months. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you for raising that point. I've never heard somebody complain about the unagended speakers portion before, so I'm open if that's something people want to talk about, having a set time at the beginning or at 6 or whenever to discuss that later. But the one thing I did want to ask about, because we've been talking about public access for a while, and Pastor Sims brought it up earlier, and I'm not sure if we have a set policy yet. I thought we were getting to a point where as long as people checked in at the front office, they were free to come up. Mr. City Manager, what's the current policy for coming to a meeting at City Hall?
Coming to a meeting?
Or sorry, not a meeting, but coming to City Hall. I know we've kind of loosened it up and allowed more access, but if somebody just comes, do they have the same ability to walk around as the county or the state to just come in, go through security, check in, and then come up?
So the process, everyday process, not limited to City Commission meetings, is that you pass through the front doors of City Hall. There is a metal detector that people do pass through. We ask them if we can call ahead if they have an appointment. Many of the offices are secured, and that provides the opportunity to call ahead. If they simply wish to go to their final destination, they're able to do that. Clearly, the mayor and city commission offices are open. The city manager's office is open, and those areas are readily accessible. So that we do ask them to sign in. If they wish not to sign in, they're not obligated to do that. That's the current process.
Okay, yeah, I think that's where the confusion has been, because I never check in, so I don't know, but different people have different experiences, and some people get caught, and I'll find out kind of minutes later, I've been waiting downstairs, I couldn't come up yet, so I don't know if that policy, everybody knows, check in, call ahead, but you're still free to come up, and if that's how we'd like access, that's how I'd like access to City Hall. I just wanted to throw that out there, and if that's what the policy is, I just want to make sure everybody knows it, and people aren't held at security until they actually make contact. At our office, you can come up and check in, and they'll come get me. So
we will clarify if there's any issues with that operation. We will clarify that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm good. Mayor Pro-Tem, it's a great meeting tonight. I'm really proud to serve with each and every one. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah. Really proud to serve with each and every one of you. We had some difficult issues to deal with tonight, some very technical issues, some big issues. I'm proud of the fact that we had scouts in the room. We set the example on how it's done. And it was a great meeting. I appreciate it. I, too, love Gilchrist Elementary School. I've got obviously a personal fondness, and it's great to be back. We stand adjourned.
Thank you, Mayor, for a great meeting.